Forget about it. Hey, Lisa. Come on.
That's Dr. Aitken. Okay.
Oh. Sorry, I was ripping yours up. I was ripping it up.
Businessman, yeah. How about that? I know they call it.
What number were you out of the 500?
I don't know. I'm way back there in the back of the book.
How much you pay for the advertising?
Business people.
Wow, he's a big dog.
At first I thought, okay, well, 500 elected officials. Well, I think I can make that list, right? Since there are only about 100.
Then you look at it, you're like, how am I 125? You're like, I don't even work anymore.
Well, that's like me telling the superintendent he's one of my top 10 superintendents.
Do you even still work?
Not much. Although more in the.
Okay, you guys ready? You guys ready? Dustin? Do I really have to do this? Look at this. Good evening and welcome to the monthly board meeting of the Dallas Independent School District Board of Trustees. Please stand and join us for a moment of silence and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and a salute to the Texas flag. Trustees present on your left and my right are Trustee Audrey Pinkerton, Trustee Lou Blackburn. I know Trustee Joyce Foreman is here, Trustee Dan Mitchke, Trustee Justin Henry, Trustee Miguel Solis, and Trustee Dustin Marshall. I am Edwin Flores, Board President, and we are joined by our Superintendent of Schools, Michael Hinojosa. I will make the announcement. Si hay alguien que necesita los servicios de un intérprete, aquí el joven en la parte de atrás y la señorita les puede ayudar con el equipo. Muchas gracias. At this time, we will recognize any elected or public officials. I do see former trustee Harriet Earhart here. Anybody else? Anybody else? Thank you for being here. Trustees, there are no recognition tonight, so we will move on to the public forum segment of the board meeting. To ensure that this meeting is held in an orderly manner, I ask speakers to please refrain from using individual names and to address the board and not individual trustees. Ms. Specina, will you call the names of the speakers, please?
Speakers, you will have 3 minutes to speak. When you arrive at the microphone, please state your name and address. Our first speaker is Brett Shipp, followed by Isaac Steen.
Good evening. My name is Brett Shipp. This is Andrea Whalen. I live at 434 Allison Drive in Dallas. I'm here to comment on the 2018 Comprehensive Financial Report. I noticed in that report there's no mention of waste and a lack of financial controls and other fiscal issues facing the district. But should it? With me tonight is former DISD investigator Andrea Whalen, a long-time, highly respected professional pushed out of her job by her bosses recently after she uncovered evidence of fraud, waste, and abuse in the purchasing process. In 2016, Ms. Whalen uncovered a scheme in the technology department to bypass the bid process and illegally funnel a $5 million contract to an unapproved vendor. Last year, she was asked to investigate another allegation made by DISD construction manager Zachariah Manning. Manning had uncovered evidence his bosses were allowing bid splitting on construction projects, possibly costing taxpayers millions of dollars. Last Sunday night on Channel 8 News, they told the story of how Mr. Manning blew the whistle to the TEA in 2016. The TEA then allowed Mr. Manning's bosses at DISD to conduct that investigation. Not surprisingly, no wrongdoing was discovered. Mr. Manning, he was fired. Ms. Whalen, meanwhile, conducted her own investigation, which not only substantiated Mr. Manning's allegations of bid splitting, she uncovered evidence of vendor overcharges and illegal pass-throughs. She put together this 37-page report of investigation and submitted it to Deputy Chief Auditor Aaron Munoz. It was never seen again, until now. Incredibly, Ms. Whalen was then retaliated against and forced out of DISD. Why? Andrea Whalen, Zach Manning, two loyal, honest employees, fired or forced out for exposing wrongdoing and tax dollar waste. Dr. Hinojosa, you went on TV 4 nights ago saying you had no idea that Ms. Whalen and Mr. Manning had been retaliated against. Sir, I met with you and your chief of staff on July 19th of this year and made you aware of all of this. I told you about this report of investigation that it uncovered wrongdoing and exonerated Mr. Manning. You did nothing about it. Nothing. Until Channel 8 came to you a few days ago, and suddenly there's an internal investigation. You already have an investigation, sir. It's right here. I'm asking you and the board to immediately reopen the investigation, apologize to these employees, and make the record straight. And to all employees of DISD who are out there and know of fraud, waste, and abuse, I encourage you to contact me, and let's start forcing administrators to stop the cover-up, and let's start following the law. Thank you.
Isaac Steen, followed by Timothy Martin.
My name is Isaac Steen. I stay at 4810 Haywood Parkway, Dallas, Texas, 75232. I want to speak on the same thing that Mr. Schiff just spoke on, adding to it that I want to call for an independent investigation, not headed by anyone that's connected into the investigation, such as Dr. Hinojosa. I think that we have had problems with Mr. Hinojosa before when we come up short $84 million, and I don't think it's appropriate for him to head an investigation or to call for an investigation that he might be part of a cover-up. And I also want people to understand that there was a lot of misrepresenting of going on into the ratification tax bill we just voted on. And I think that according to Mr. Hinojosa on the news, in the newspaper, that the people were duped because he's saying that this tax ratification will not fix the problem with the finances in DISD. So to push for something that's not going to fix it, it's a temporary Band-Aid, and we got a permanent tax hike that I know the public voted on. So I'm asking that in the independent investigation that all school board trustees have same access in the investigation and the investigators report to them and not to the staff of DISD. Thank you.
Timothy Martin, followed by Amanda Rocha. Amanda Rocha, followed by Natalie Ornelas.
Good evening. I am Amanda Rocha, and I am currently a senior at Sunset High School. And today I will be addressing agenda item 7.2 on campus staff report list. Every morning I walk through the metal detector, and sometimes it beeps. Sometimes it beeps, and sometimes it doesn't. And with recent events like the Parkland High School shooting, I can't help but flinch every time it beeps and wonder what might be in that bag. And as much as I wish I could say, not every bag gets checked at our school. Sunset High School is home to over 2,200 students. And we have, like other high schools in Dallas ISD, we have multiple buildings. We only have 4 security monitors, but we have 9 entrances. And I know that it is not humanly possible for those 4 security monitors to watch out for all 9 entrances. In a perfect scenario, I could stand here in front of you and ask you for 9 security monitors. And in a perfect world, I would have to ask for none. But our world is not perfect, and students are subjected to danger every day when they step out of their homes. Our school has had to come up with ways to make up for the lack of security. We have parents here every morning checking our bags, but it should not be up to the parents to provide safety to our school. That responsibility is on the district. And in this scenario, I am asking you to find a middle ground. If we could get 2 or 3 more security monitors, that would help tremendously with making students feel like they can be safe, coming to a place where they spend 8 hours, 5 days a week at every year. School has become a second home to most, if not all, students at Sunset High School. And we should not have to go every day wondering if this is the day we become another statistic. Thank you.
Natalie Ornelas, followed by Cristina Rodriguez.
Hi, my name is Natalie Ornelas, and I'm here to talk about item 7.21. I'm a senior at Sunset High School. The reason I'm here is because there are many people that should be walking with me in the stage in May who won't be there. Some of them because they dropped out. Those who didn't think high school was worth enough. Those who thought it was too hard. And those who decided to end their life early. I'm here to talk about the need of more school counselors. School counselors. The board policy states, school counselors must assume leadership roles so that a student's academic, career, personal, and social abilities are addressed. Currently, in the staffing form, it should be the number of students divided by 450. How do we expect one counselor to take over 450 students and help them with academic, career, personal, and social abilities? How are we supposed to succeed? If you see a counselor twice a year, you're considered lucky. I personally deal with anxiety. And I'm lucky because I have a strong support system. But I know my peers don't. They can't talk to their parents or friends. So who are they supposed to talk to? Sorry. If this is a responsibility that the district puts on our counselors, why aren't there any more of them? There are other students like me that need help. Where's their help? I know it's a lot to ask, but I think it's an investment. It's an investment that we need to make for our students and for their future. Thank you.
Christina Rodriguez, followed by Michelle Medrano. Christina Rodriguez, Michelle Medrano. Gail Perry.
Gail Perry, 729 Kipling Drive, Plano, Texas, 75023, Jackson Present. First, a personal thank you for the new security system that links school cameras to the police if there were a crisis in one of our schools. I sincerely hope other districts follow your lead. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of Dallas Association of School Librarians. Thank you for your support of the American Association of School Librarian Standards and the Game Changers program financed through the Title I grant. Over the next few months, for 3 minutes each board meeting, you will hear about the wonderful programs and experiences in DISD school libraries. It is our hope when you hear all that is being taught and the services rendered, you will agree that strong library programs are an important part of our students' education. Before you is a poster showing the statistics of how having a certified school librarian positively affects academics and test scores. Having been a math teacher for 26 years, I learned long ago how reading ability affects my students' scores. I had to teach not only the math concept and skills, but also how to read and apply math properly. Reading of all types of books improves fluency. Librarians guide students, helping them discover what types of books they like and what types seem appropriate to address the student's needs. When students enjoy reading, they read more, learn more, and perform better in school, including math. The importance of having a certified school librarian is personal to me, not because it is my job, but because I was that child who could not read. When my brother was in 3rd grade, his class read Charlotte's Web. He loved it so much, he checked it out and brought it home for me. I still remember sitting on the couch with H.W. reading to our mother and me. I was so excited about starting school the next year so that I could read, but that's not what happened. I struggled. Being in the slow reading group, I was humiliated and disappointed. By the end of 2nd grade, my reading improved. Reading was no longer painful but fun. I quickly caught up to my classmates and was soon reading on grade level. If I had not had the school librarian guiding me, I never would have been able to regain the ground I had lost during 1st and 2nd grade. Librarians know how to guide a child. Equally important, they know which books a library should have to meet the various needs. Sometimes when we talk about students who cannot read on grade level, I think to myself, that could have been me. I think about not being able to succeed in college or have my career. If it had not been for a reading specialist teaching to my learning style and a school librarian who reinforced what I taught with a strong library program, I would not have been able to be a teacher and librarian. We hope you and the community enjoy hearing about our school libraries. With your continued support, DIC librarians will be able to provide important programs that will support our students' development. Thank you for what you do.
Harriet Earhart, followed by Jim Schirmbeck.
Hello. Good evening, President Flores, trustees, and Superintendent Hinojosa. My name is Harriet Earhart. I live at 5731 Swiss Avenue. I'm a member of our community, our schools, which I will refer to as OCOS. Our organization represents approximately 150,000 Dallas citizens, taxpayers, and working families, with many of them having children proudly attending DISD schools. I'm speaking on a non-agenda item regarding the 2 current outside investigations underway on possible criminal violation and misuse of taxpayer dollars in Dallas's ISD's purchasing department. OCOS wants you to know that we wholeheartedly support and expect your full cooperation in these investigations as administrators and as our elected representatives. It is important to note that many of us are quite disturbed that employees reporting potential violations for best practices within a department were fired or treated in a manner causing their resignation. Those actions are totally unacceptable, especially as our students learn volumes from those that lead this district. Thank you for serving our public school students and communities. We applaud your efforts while watching and expecting the best that you have to offer, just as we do from the wonderful employees in this district. Thank you.
Jim Sherbeck, followed by Sheila Walker.
And now for something completely different. My name is Jim Schirmbeck. I'm director of a clean air group called Downwinders at Risk, 1808 South Good Latimer, 75266. We started out 25 years ago in Midlothian, concentrating on toxic waste burning cement plants. We are now based in Dallas on Good Latimer and looking at air pollution issues in general, but in particular PM pollution, maybe a pollution you haven't heard about before, particulate matter. It's basically caused by every flame engine, boiler, furnace that you see, and engines and buses. PM is the new lead. It causes all kinds of problems in your respiratory system, heart problems, and so on, but what's really insidious about it is it causes problems up here, developmental problems, much like lead. Autism is associated with it now, depression, ADHD, dementia, Parkinson's. It affects kids that way in particular, and the elderly. People of color are more likely to be exposed to this type of pollution. Black men are 1.5 times more likely to be exposed to this kind of pollution, and bus riders are more likely to be exposed to this pollution because they ride on these vehicles that are combustion engine operated, and they wait for them at places that are full of congested traffic, and they absorb that traffic PM as well. I'm sure you'll agree students face enough challenges right now, we just heard, without being faced with poisoning by their own buses or waiting for those buses in traffic. As a result of our effort on this kind of pollution, we're in Joppy, we're at city planning meetings, and now we're at places that own big bus fleets, because we want to see you electrify those bus fleets and also provide better protection for people waiting for those buses. We are talking to DART. We're now talking to you. We believe the purchasing power of area ISDs plus the transit agencies could give you a huge break on the purchase costs of these buses, and the operating costs, as you may know, are way, way lower than conventional engine buses. In fact, there are school districts right now making money off of their electric buses by turning them to big power plants at night or during the summer when they're not in use. They actually sell power back to the grid off of their batteries. They make money. This is a win-win situation for everybody, for public health, for climate change, for students, for your pocketbooks. We're having an event on December 6th that I'm going to leave 15 invitations to with somebody in authority here. You're invited to an electric bus pub crawl. We're commandeering the D-Link line for an evening. You get 3 drinks and a Graham Dodds meal. If you don't know who Graham Dodds is, please Google him. He's a culinary star here in this area.
Mr. Sherbrand, thank you so much. Your time has expired.
Okay, thank you.
Sheila Walker, followed by Pamela Craycraft.
Good evening, trustees, and Good evening, trustees and superintendent of schools. My name is Sheila Walker, and I reside at 10707 Big Thicket Drive in District 4. I am the Executive Vice President of NEA Dallas, and I'm here today speaking on behalf of education support professionals and due process. Education support professionals are the spokes of the wheel and the backbone of our district. Yet, despite how well we do in our jobs, we continue to be at-will employees. This means we can have our employment terminated at any time for any reason or for no reason at all. This creates a permanent cloud or insecurity under which we work and sometimes can be bad morale at some campuses. We deserve a fair procedural process before our employment is terminated. Several school districts across the state that I provided you with in Texas now have such a process outlined in their board policy. Examples are Austin ISD, Brownsville ISD, Del Valle ISD, Donna ISD, and our neighbor, Fort Worth ISD, and even McAllen ISD. This concept of due process is an integral part of the American way. And according to the 5th and 14th Amendments of the Constitution, fair treatment through the normal judicial system, especially as a citizen's entitlement. Therefore, education support professionals are no different than teachers, librarians, counselors, nurses, and all other professionals in Dallas Independent School District. They all have due process outlined in board policy, and we at NEA Dallas is just asking for a language change. It won't cost the district anything, so as you look over those other languages, we're just asking for a language change, and we would like to sit down with you and so we can come up with a good thing for Dallas ISD. In the interest of dignity, decency, and justice, NEA Dallas seeks your assistance in assuring all education support professionals such as bus drivers, monitors, custodians, paraeducators, clerical, and food service workers receive due process, stating that any time an education support professional is on leave or should suffer no loss of pay or other benefits while under investigation, and the investigation should take no more than 10 days to be resolved. This is at no cost to the district, and we are asking that these language changes be made to the board policy in reference to at-will employees. Thanks for listening, and have a blessed Thanksgiving break.
Pamela Craycraft, followed by Benny Guzman. Pamela Craycraft, Benny Guzman.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of HOG. My daughter Savannah was supposed to speak after me, but she's not feeling well. But she did want me to say two things to you. One, you better be glad she's not here. And second, to please convey to you how special HOG is to the community and the district. HOG helped start the programs, PTO programs at Botello Elementary, at Garcia Middle School, and working on Peeler. We not only helped started them, we have a fundraiser that Chad West, the Last Back Standing Tournament, does every year. We were awarded $5,000 last year from that. This year we got $10,000. We decided to share it with the district. We gave $2,000 to Botello, $2,000 to Garcia, $2,000 to Adamson, $1,000 to Peeler, and $1,000 to Bowie. Not only that, next year from this fundraiser, we're going to fund an after-school program for a school in Oak Cliff that desperately needs it. The cost of that is $7,500 a year. We're going to fund it for 3 years in hopes that you guys will pick it up after that. Not only that, we have teamed up with Walgreens. Walgreens now, their Tots for Toys program that they do in Oak Cliff is going to be going to Hogg Elementary and the schools in our district. So the kids, so the families that can't really afford a Christmas will have one. Not only that, we teamed up with Socorro Dismore, the owner of Levine's. She now is going, she heard what Hogg was doing for the district and the community. She's going to give special discounts to not only Hogg, but the schools in our district for the school uniforms next year. And she's also going to sponsor Hogg. We've teamed up with Peter Piper Pizza. They donated free dictionaries to Hogg last year. This coming year, they're going to give it to every third grader in our district. Not to mention, they're going to be giving awards for A, be on a roll, perfect attendance, good behavior, and other things. They also have designated a night where the schools can choose a night they can come out, be a part of it, and after 3 o'clock, there'll be a 15, whatever's made that day, the school gets 15% of the profit. So we're pretty happy about that. SMU has reached out to us. They want to get involved in the Oak Cliff community, and we were blessed. Daniel Nunez, the AD, the assistant AD for marketing at SMU Athletics, has chosen HOG to be the vessel to reach out to the different schools in the district. They will be coming out to the field days. They'll be coming out to our after-school programs. We have some parents who started a run club. Caitlin and Richard know that the cross-country team will be coming out to the school and giving them shirts. And then they'll be doing other events. There's
Thank you, Mr. Guzman. Your time has expired.
Okay.
Laura Palmer, followed by Caitlin Snow.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Laura Palmer. Obviously, you can see I'm standing here representing Hogg Elementary. I live in Kid Springs neighborhood. I became involved with Hogg Elementary about 6 years ago. I was asked to become involved. I do not have children in DISD, but there was a desperate need to have help putting together the SBDM. There wasn't a current running SBDM. We didn't have a PTA or a PTO at that time. We had to go in and establish these relationships, set up the procedures, and begin working. At that time, HOG was IR. Today, HOG has a 92 on its TEA. It is second in our district for elementary schools. We have come a long way in 6 years. I can see it when I walk through the doors. We are a small school, that is correct. However, it is a school that is beloved by its students and by its communities surrounding it. I work with our neighborhood association to try to bring in resources from our neighbors. These are people who do not have children necessarily in the school, but our neighborhood wants to support our neighborhood school. We want to maintain our neighborhood school. And that is why you can see all the people behind me, in front of me, who are here to say North Oak Cliff wants to keep its neighborhood schools.
Caitlin Snow, followed by Crystal Garcia.
I'm Caitlin Snow. I'm a parent of a student at Hogg Elementary. I'm here speaking on a non-agenda item regarding the long-range facilities plan. My son has entered, this is his second year now at Hogg Elementary. He is in kindergarten. He benefited from the pre-K tuition-based program that we have at Hogg, which is unique in our neighborhood and not offered very widely across the district even. So we are lucky to have that available to our family for him. It allowed us to get into the school early and engage early, and also increased his learning outcomes from pre-K to now kinder. He is in the dual language program, which is also unique in our neighborhood in that it is an immersion program. He is already at 3 months into the school year speaking, spelling, and reading in Spanish. And it's only 3 months into the school year, which is a huge achievement. Hogg is special for many reasons beyond just what you've heard from me and what is providing my student. Benny highlighted many of the community engagement pieces that we have been able to achieve as a school. That just in general, having the pre-K 3 and 4 is a unique offering within the neighborhood as well. So there are a lot of families that benefit from getting their children in early in a Head Start program. And again, we have seen the learning outcomes across the school to giving us an A rating across the district for what we have achieved in terms of bringing students of all backgrounds to a high level of education and knowledge. Outside of academics, we're, as a family, able to engage with a wider Oak Cliff community. We walk to school every day. We run into people that we know. We've met people on our walks to school. We've really gotten to engage within our school with after-school programs. As Benny stated, my husband and I, along with another parent, have started a running club so that we can get the kids moving, but also engage with more families. It's these kinds of things that the long-range facilities plan seems to have missed. There are pieces beyond numbers that give our students value. And I would encourage the board to, in further evolutions of this plan, to take a look at the human element that has been kind of grossly missed with the numbers that we're seeing right now. And I hope that also I'm advocating that HOG be removed from a decision point. It makes it incredibly difficult to engage people and get them into our school when it is unknown the outcome of what this plan is going to do to us. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Crystal Garcia, followed by Javier Garcia.
Hi, my name is Crystal Garcia. I live in 1718 Arizona. I don't have read in anything or anything like that, but my son goes to James Hogg. He came from a charter school, and he was going to charter school. It's up to 24 to 30 kids, and one class, one teacher is trying to teach these 25 to 30 kids, and his grades were going down. I had to do something. I took him out of charter. He come to James Hogg, and guess what? This is his second year. His grades are going high. He talks more. He's bubbly. He has a speech problem, but you wouldn't notice. Kids wouldn't pick on him. Over there at the charter school, they made him feel insecure, so he was very shut down. He didn't talk. And since going to James Hogg, he's been talking more. His teachers say he's doing awesome. He's reading more. His grades are going up. He's interacting with all these kids. It's just like, it's a big impact. I understand y'all want to make a big school, but if you go to a big school and you put like 30 kids in one class, half of them are going to pass, but half of them are going to be behind. And I don't want that to happen to any kids, especially mine either. What are you going to do when those half of the kids are just failing? I just think James Hogg is a great school. It's small, but it makes a big impact in the kids and in the education. And I see it through my son. Since he was going to a charter school, he came to James Hogg. I went to James Hogg. And I want my future kids, I only have one right now, but I want my other kids to go to James Hogg. But I see the difference when going to a small community school, it's just a big impact. And I want more kids to go in there because my kid loves it. He talks about his teachers. He talks about the principal. He's outgoing. He tells me his principal knows his name, everything. It's just like, y'all need to go up there and observe and see because it does make an impact on every kid's life. And I see it. I work for another school. I see the difference between my school and this school. I just want to let you know, James Hogg, it needs to be off the list. Thank you very much.
Javier Garcia, followed by Pam Conley.
Hi. I'm Javier Isaire. My address is 801 West 8th Street. I guess I'm just reiterating what she said. Our son came from our charter school. Now he's at the point where he's playing chess. Like, he's learning how to play chess. I played him today, and I'm not proud to admit, but he actually beat me. And but he's growing immensely, and he has a bunch of little friends that he talks about, and they do all this after-school activities, like, what was it, pumpkin and películas and all that stuff that he does. I'm always at work, but he does all of that stuff. And so, yes, when he heard the news that the school might be shut down, and he was honestly very sad about it. He doesn't want to go to another school. He loves his teacher. He talks about Mr. Robledo all day, every day. I mean, again, the human element that she spoke about, that's what I want to reiterate, that I don't think in this big plan about a super school, I don't think that human element was thrown in there. I did see a whole bunch of numbers about money and property value and all of this other stuff, and money being saved, and I assumed that that money was being saved by cutting staff, having, what was the sunset number? 400 kids to one counselor. I would imagine this elementary would have those same problems, well, yeah, issues. Then, yeah, I don't have a lot to say, but that was it. Thank you.
Pam Conley, followed by Noe Avila.
Well, phooey. Hi, I'm Pam Conley. I've just destroyed your microphone here. I live at 901 North Madison in the Kid Springs neighborhood, home to James Hogg School. You've heard our parents speak lovingly of the school. You've heard them speak what they offer. He's going to fix it for me. Thank you, sir. There you go. Now then, we're set. We need your help. Quite some time ago, I asked Ms. Lair how to come down and talk to you on some issues with our school, and I didn't get around to doing it. So these steps that you're now taking have prompted me to get down here. Hogg has been ignored by DISD for years. The community, the parents, the teachers have held it together, but we have not had the support from DISD headquarters. Finally, in 2015, the bond issue came up, and we were going to get a new roof and air conditioning and heating and all kinds of wonderful things. So in 2016, when there was construction activity going on up there, we thought, oh goody, this is it. Wrong. What DISD was doing was spending in excess of $300,000 to put a federally funded daycare in our lower level, which put our 4th and 5th graders out into the outhouses. Now, they got it rent-free, good program. But number one, it's a daycare. You went in and did over $300,000 work with no building permit. It obviously didn't come to you guys for approval, or you're not admitting it if it did, but no approval on it, and not one building permit. Not one building permit. As a result, it wasn't built according to code. So there's a different building requirement for daycare than there is school kids because infants aren't mobile. So then fire department came in and shut it down. So then DISD spends another $25,000 to bring it up to code. So this is the final blow, friends, on coming in and wanting to do away with the school. I spent a fair amount of time as a child on the farm. Our cash crop was cotton, but we raised chickens and pigs. Hogs squeal. They squeal when they're aggravated. They squeal when they're threatened. And come hog slaughtering time, you could hear those hogs squealing in the next farm that was a half a mile away. You're going to start hearing some hogs do some squealing now. We squealed on that and got no reaction from you whatsoever. We still have the daycare there. So far, it still doesn't have its zoning.
Thank you, Ms. Conley. Your time has expired.
Thank you so much for your time.
Noe Avila, followed by Cassie Braun.
Hello, my name is Noe Avila. We moved to Oak Cliff. I live at 2647 Deep Hill Circle. Before that, I lived at right down the street from Hogg. And we moved this past year. I grew up in Pleasant Grove. I went to public school. I went to John W. Runyon, I believe it is. And I believe it was a relatively big school. My parents, I suffer from anxiety like the young girl before. So I don't like to speak in public. I don't like to put myself in the spotlight. But I'm doing this for my son because if we stay with, if we stay in our comfort zone, then most of the time we lose. So I grew up in Pleasant Grove. I'm the youngest of 14 brothers and sisters, and my parents saw that Runyon wasn't the best place for me, so they took me out. And as a father of three, most of the time I don't have a clue what I'm doing, but I know that I want the best for my son and my kids, the rest of my kids. And so when it came time to find a school for him, we looked all over the place. We looked at private school because I went to private school, and so we looked at all the options. Charter schools back then didn't exist, so that's why my parents put me in private school. But looking at all the options, we found Hog because, number one, it was dual language, and I wanted my son to have Spanish as a base and be a part of his culture. So we found Hog, and my son is a lot like me. He gets shy, he gets nervous, and we found this small school, perfect school for him. And he's excelling. He's making friends. He's coming out of his shell little by little. And I want you guys to consider that there's a lot of kids that are being affected. They might be only a 280 or whatever, but as a board, I would assume that you guys would want the best for our kids as well. So I would really like for you to consider my son. Consider all the other kids that are in his class. Consider the friendships that he's made. And please take Hog off the list because it's going to affect our lives. It's going to affect my son's life forever. And so, please, this is all I have to say. Thank you.
Cassie Braun, followed by Christian Vega. Cassie Braun, Christian Vega, Jennifer, thank you.
Hi, my name is Christian Vega, 2519 Annandale Drive, 75238. I'm a father of two beautiful boys that had graduated, well, one graduated from Ben Milam, the other one's currently going to Ben Milam Elementary School. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the same subject as the other school here, HUG, that we feel for you guys as well. We're being considered to be on the list. And I was gonna start talking about how good this school is, right? But I believe you guys already know that. The results show themselves, correct? And so when you got parents like these here, myself, and stating to you guys the importance of small schools, small classrooms, it makes a difference, an impact on our kids. Both of my kids, boys are dyslexia. They have dyslexia and ADD. And if it wasn't for Ben Milam Elementary School, my oldest would not have got a full scholarship to a private Catholic school, had not had dinner with the ex-Mexican president during the, the Nobel Prize Awards. He was invited to go be a guest over there as well with his other schoolmates. When we first applied to a private school, first thing they said, where do you guys come from? The ISD. The look that we got was automatically, you're not gonna make it, right? They were impressed. They couldn't believe that my oldest son was at that level of math and other subjects. He's like the gentleman's son. He's very shy, he's dyslexia, a little bit, doesn't talk as much. But he's a great success, and I owe it everything to Ben Milam as the best foundation that he has as an education. So if we are not focusing on the education or the foundation of their education, which is like HOG, our best school, Ben Milam, then we're setting them up for failure. There's bigger schools like Sunset who has issues not having counselors, right? Well, imagine if we take that foundation from our kids in this generation away. So we encourage you guys, we ask you guys to please reconsider your plan. I see, like the other gentleman said, I see a lot of numbers and spending money on marketing, advertising, and other sources. This beautiful building here is nice, but the education is at the school, and it's all based on the teachers, on your principals. They're dedicated. They care about the kids. Parents like these right here who care about the kids. We do not care about this building, to be honest with you, right? We care that our teachers are being very well taken care of so they can take care of our kids. And we're a testament of that. I was here 6 years ago in a different building with the same process. So I thank you for listening. I hope you make the right decision. And as parents, we're here to support you guys as well. If you guys need, we all want to help out. We want to take care of our schools and whatever else we can help you guys. But thank you so much for listening and taking your time. And we're tigers. Remember that. Hogs and we're tigers. We don't squeal. Thank you.
Jennifer Morgan, followed by Patricia Santamaria.
My name is Jennifer Morgan, and I reside at 2600 Cole Avenue in Dallas. I am a proud DISD parent of a third grade student at Ben Milam Elementary, where I am also the PTO president. I am concerned about the future of Ben Milam per the Strategic Facilities Plan Update version 1.1, where our school is at a decision point. I just wanted to reiterate that Ben Milam is the only DISD elementary school that serves uptown, downtown Dallas, and the Family Place Shelter. All trustees should have received an email from me on November 13th stating my position. As noted in previous board meetings, our school has approximately 70% transfer students, showing that our school was a choice for parents long before choice was popular. Our parents make the choice to attend Ben Milam every day without the benefits of an official choice schooling offers, such as transportation. We have families that have had generations attending Ben Milam. One of our third grade parents attended Ben Milam over 30 years ago, and one of the teachers that he had for pre-K is now teaching all of his children. Our family moved from the Frisco Independent School District, where over 200 children were in each grade level, so that our son Carter could attend Ben Milam and be in a smaller school that could address his needs. We specifically moved into the District 2 for this school mid-year in 2016. At FISD, Carter would beg not to go to school and visit the nurse's office at least 4 times a week. Carter has ADHD, anxiety, and dyslexia. Principal Galvan and her staff immediately took our FISD Section 504 plan and put it into place on day 1. We have since had additional ARD meetings that established a comprehensive IEP plan for our son. With the addition of Dr. Sorensen to our special education department, as well as the wonderful work of our dyslexia interventionist, Julie Rinker, our son is flourishing along with other students. More importantly, he loves going to school and he is reading. Smaller class size and lower enrollment of schools allows for more one-on-one interaction and tutoring. Our school has a wonderful TAG program consisting of 27% of our student body that affords many children the opportunity to enter into highly sought-after magnet programs for middle school. One of our former students is now the class president in Hockaday. Another has earned a scholarship to a private Catholic school. And our very own 5th grade teacher, Miss Alcorta, attended Ben Milam as a student, graduated from SMU, and came back to our school to teach because she loves it there. I would respectfully ask that before any decisions are made as to the future of Ben Milam Elementary, that the board takes a long, hard look at what is ultimately best for our students and not focusing on short-term bottom lines. Thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward to seeing what the board has to offer.
Patricia Santamaria, followed by Volton Morgan.
Hello, my name is Patricia Santamaria, and I am a parent from students at Ben Milam Elementary. My address is 6924 Clear Glen Drive, 75232. The first thing that I wanted to say is that as soon as I heard that Ben Milam might be closing down for whatever reason, it was very scary for me because, like Ms. Morgan stated, for us, it's been a choice school since my children, which my son is now in high school. He's in 9th grade at Townview. My daughter is at the Law Academy in Atwell because of Ben Milam. The instruction there is so nurturing. The teachers really actually care about the students. They're so dedicated, and you know, it's not even just the teachers, the staff. It can be from the cafeteria staff to the custodians. Everybody is so nice, so sweet, genuinely caring for all the students. It makes the students actually speak to them, you know, and have trust in anything that they do. They feel safe since it's such a small school, which that is what we really need. Ben Milam is really an exemplary school, not just because of the teachers, but it's also because the students choose to be that way. They choose to follow what the teachers say. They actually want to be someone. Like I stated, my children are at magnet schools because of the awesome instruction of all the teachers. We don't mind the drive. There is literally sometimes an hour and a half drive for me each and every day, and I don't mind it one bit. For my pre-K daughter, I would drive that years to come. I would not mind it at all. The thing is that, you know, success doesn't come along. It's achieved by the effort of the teachers, by everyone that is involved in the schools. And if you guys would please reconsider this for our school, I think that future generations deserve a school like Ben Milam. They bond. Children bond there. My children still have friends from that school because of the way that they were instructed, the way that they were raised, the foundation, the values that were put in them from the get-go. So please take Ben Milam off the list. Thank you.
Bolton Morgan, followed by Kim Green.
My name is Valentin Morgan. I'm I live at 2600 Cole Avenue, Dallas, Texas 75204. And this is about the Ben Milam, the strategic planning for that. I wanted to, and one thing I've been hearing a lot, at least, is future is like a big thing, obviously, with our children. And when you look at least demographics, and you guys know this better than anybody, uptown and downtown, lots of families are moving back. And my family in particular, Jennifer's my wife, my son Carter's 9 years old. That was the reason why we came to Ben Milam, was because we wanted to bring our families, close to our jobs, close to our work, and it was methodical. It was methodical in thinking about, we want a smaller school. We knew it was a smaller school, and we knew we're coming from Frisco. So you talk about huge class sizes and those classrooms. I've heard people here that have talked about just how those smaller classrooms have done so much. It's been so much more impactful for them, and that's a big deal for us. And I've seen my child come from Frisco, where he was scared to talk to anybody and scared to come home and didn't want to talk about his day, to be just bubbling over. And it has a lot to do with the small school size. It has a lot to do with with teachers that it's a true community there. And I just wanted to put my 2 cents in to just ask that you kind of keep all of us in mind, Hogg as well as Ben Milam. I mean, it just seems as if it's something that's being missed. And I think somebody said earlier, and I so agree with that, it's not all about numbers. It's about community. And if you can find, wherever you can find community, I think that trumps cost at any point. But that's all I had. I appreciate it.
Kim Green, followed by Martha Perez.
My name is Kim Green. I live at 2222 Elmwood Boulevard, Dallas 75224. I am a parent of a first grader at Rosemont's Chris Stamos Primary, and I would like to discuss the plan to convert our landlocked school into a monstrosity of a mega school that is projected to house nearly 2,000 students. Ranging in age from 4 to 14 years old. I'll bluntly tell you, this is a horrible idea. And none of our students, parents, or neighbors want this. Our school currently has nearly 600 students, and there are already issues with drop-off and pickup. Increasing our student body to 2,000 kids will turn drop-off into survival of the fittest. Did any of you even consider a traffic study before you introduced this plan to the community? This is in absolutely no way in the best interest of our students or our neighborhood. Which leads me to ask, who does benefit from this costly project? Looking at the planned estimate, the cost to build these mega schools grossly surpasses the cost to follow prior proposals to repair schools that are included in the 2015 bond. Oak Cliff is known for its historical homes and rejuvenating nature. We chose Rosemont for its outreaching community and neighborhood school environment. Our children want and deserve a school where they are part of something familiar and not just number 992 of the 2,000 kids shuttled through daily. My daughter is slated to walk the same halls as her great-grandfather, her great-uncle, her grandfather, and her uncle when she starts third grade at Rosemont's elementary school. We value history. Our neighborhood values history. Your plans and ideology are not in the best interest of our children or community, but somehow you all continue to pursue an agenda that we, the parents, teachers, students, and neighbors, do not want. Please take us off of your list because we want our neighborhood school to stay a neighborhood school that we and our children deserve. Thank you.
Martha Perez.
Buenas tardes a todos. Yo no traigo nada escrito esta tarde tampoco, pero yo también vengo a apoyar la idea de lo que habló la mamá anterior. Yo también tengo 3 hijos en la escuela de Rosemont, una en 5º grado, otra en 6º y otra en 7º grado, en el programa de doble idioma, y es una escuela magnífica. Mis hijos tienen excelentes calificaciones, que pueden ir a otras escuelas, pueden ir a Spence, pueden ir a Travis, a otras escuelas. Sin embargo, ellos están felices, ellos están contentos en estas escuelas pequeñas donde todos nos conocemos. Los estudiantes se conocen uno con otro, los maestros nos conocemos, los padres nos conocemos, porque es una escuela que tiene mucha actividad de los padres. Yo soy voluntaria, yo estoy ahí casi todos los días porque me interesa la educación de mis hijos. Y cuando yo escuché la idea que tienen ustedes de tumbar la escuela, la middle school, para convertirla en una mega school, eso a mí me da terror, de verdad, porque yo no veo la idea de tener niños pequeños de 4 años con niños de 14 años. O sea, eso no, eso para nosotros los padres, esa idea es terrorífica para nosotros. Entonces, también otro problema es el tráfico. Ahora que construyeron los apartamentos enfrente de la Lower Campus, es un problema de tráfico peor que el que ya había. Entonces yo pienso que si se construye la mega school, o sea, ¿dónde nos vamos a parquear cuando vayamos a recoger a nuestros hijos? Es una escuela de comunidad donde todos nos sentimos contentos con lo que tenemos. Es una super escuela. Yo estoy consciente de que la escuela necesita algunos arreglos, sí. Entonces yo les pido que por favor, si quieren invertir dinero haciendo una mega school, que arreglen la escuela mejor. Es nuestra escuela de la comunidad. Entonces yo les vengo a pedir esta noche que por favor reconsideren eso, porque nuestros hijos están contentos. Tienen unas maestras magníficas ahí, tenemos todos los programas que muchas escuelas no tienen. Tienen danza, tienen debate, tienen golf, tenemos todos los programas y nuestros hijos están contentos ahí. Yo no nada más vengo a hablar por mí, sino por otros padres también hispanos, ¿verdad? Que me han dicho, ¿verdad? Que están preocupados por lo que vaya a pasar en Rosemont. Yo les vengo a pedir que por favor reconsideren la idea de hacer una mega school, y más bien si quieren invertir, que nos renueven la escuela, pero así como está. Gracias.
President Flores, this concludes our speakers.
Thank you, Mrs. Vecina. Moving on, the Superintendent's Report, Academic Achievement and Accolades. Dr. Hinojosa.
Yes,
Mr. President, members of the board, thank you for giving me the opportunity to give a very brief report. I want to say thank you to the Dallas voters who have overwhelmingly, in every board district, significantly approved the tax ratification election that will allow the district now to move forward and implement the strategic initiatives for the next multiple years and to keep improving the academic performance of our students. And so I want to thank the voters and everyone who participated in that. And secondly, this past weekend, the Urban Council, Texas Urban Council, which is a coalition of the large urban districts, we met together. We have done our Dallas ISD legislative platform. We also, as member districts, have similar issues, and so we have a legislative platform that we're also working in tandem with the other school districts. And at our event, we also had participants from the city, including several mayors and city managers. And the governor's office laid out their first proposal for a school finance plan. There were a lot of details that need a lot further discussion, but I wanted to report to you that those meetings are underway, and thank you for allowing me to give my report this evening.
Thank you, Superintendent Hinojosa. The next item on the agenda is Board of Trustee Committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? Just Trustee Marshall, Audit Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Dallas Independent School District Audit Committee met November 8th, 2018 at 4 p.m. Those present included myself, Trustee Joyce Foreman, and Trustee Edwin Flores. Public Committee member Tony Stevens was also in attendance. The agenda, attachments, and video of the meeting are available for viewing on the district's website. The following is a brief summary of significant issues from the meeting. BDO LLP representatives presented the results from the performance audit conducted on the district's E-rate program for the funding year ended June 30th, 2018. The audit firm did identify 2 instances of noncompliance with key provisions of E-rate program rules and requirements. BDO's comments on the instances involved the proper recording of the movement of E-rate assets and controls for the calculation of procurement requests. District management has acknowledged the findings and recommendations are currently in the process of implementing corrective action plans to address those issues. Additionally, BDO identified chances for increased efficiencies or opportunities to strengthen the E-rate process. Their comments had to do with district E-rate training requirements and the district's internal system used to track the location of E-rate assets. Also, representatives from Weaver LLP reviewed the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018. Weaver's management letter and the district's response were also discussed. The audit committee voted to recommend approval of the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018 to the full Board of Trustees. The board is scheduled to vote on the report at tonight's meeting. The continuous monitoring performed on the district's utility payments, disaster recovery plan, and 2015 bond programs were also reviewed and discussed. Utility payments and disaster recovery plan development appear to be moving towards full implementation of their identified plans. Also, the status report on internal audit findings and recommendations was presented. All findings and recommendations are either closed or are in process of being resolved based on the agreed upon timelines. Lastly, several reports were presented to the committee for review and approval. These reports included evaluation of the district's special education program, district's ADA 504 compliance, and full campus audits for W.T. White and Molina High Schools. All reports were finalized via approval by the committee. Copies of these reports can be found on the district's website. The next audit committee meeting will be scheduled for February 21st, 2019. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall. Trustee Solis.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Governance Ad Hoc Committee continues to meet. We meet in public. You can watch all of the meetings online if you can't make the meetings. If you'd like to find the meetings online, you can go to dallasisd.org. From there, you can search for the board website. You go to the board website, and you can go to the board meetings. And if you go to the board meetings, you can go pull every single video that's ever been made of the Governance Ad Hoc Committee, because we meet in public, and we invite all the public to come and join in what has been a very invigorating and exciting conversation about governance. If that's your cup of tea, join us. We now have had 4 public meetings. It's been great to know that we've had our public meetings shared multiple times through social media, and we invite you to continue to do that for any of you who like to share our meetings as well. This past meeting, we focused on, which by the way was today, right before, a little bit before this meeting, we talked about board onboarding training, continuing education development. We have got a lot of great work going on there to make sure that we can keep the continued professional development of our board members something that is relatable to board members and allows us to really thrive in our roles. as we continue to improve from a governance standpoint. We then talked a little bit about the scrutinizing of board operating procedures, making sure that we know what our board operating procedures are and identifying ways that we can continue to improve those. We talked about the Lone Star governance tool, which has been in existence now for almost 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And we also talked about board policies related to that tool as well. We'll continue to do this work. We'll do the work for the entire year. We invite anybody and everybody that'd like to come and partake in this work to do it at these public meetings. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Trustee Solis. Do we have any other committees that met during the last month? I don't think we do. Those are our two standing committees. Okay, so next item on the agenda is trustee reports for districts 1 through 9. On community interests, topics include such as expression of thanks, congratulations, or condolences, information regarding holiday schedules, an honorary and salutary recognition of a public official, public employee, or other citizen, except that a discussion regarding a change in the status of a person's public office or public employment is not an honorary or salutary recognition for purposes of the subdivisions, or for a reminder about an upcoming event organized or sponsored by the governing body. We will start on my right, your left, Trustee Pinkerton.
Thank you. I have a report for District 7, and I'm going to start out with a lot of news about Sunset High School. There's been a lot of activity there this last month. First off, the Sunset Student Group Congress team won the Congressional App Challenge for District 33. And Congressman Veazey is expected to visit the school on Monday, November the 26th. They're going to celebrate all Sunset entries and personally congratulate the winning team, which includes the following students: Lauren Diaz, Elihu Mora, Memphis Mitchell, and Julian Navejas. The winning team has the opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C., and they will each receive a $250 gift card. So kudos to the computer science teacher, Mr. Willis, who encouraged the students to participate. Sunset Robotics team was awarded a financial gift of $1,000 from the Methodist Digestive Institute, and this donation is in support of continuing the mastery of robotics in celebration of their 100th Whipple operation. A Whipple is a robotic mechanism that is used to perform minimally invasive surgical procedures. So the SHS, or Sunset High School Robotics team, has been asked to return to the hospital to witness and participate in a Whipple demonstration this spring. So great opportunity. And then finally, I would just want to say thank you to the Sunset PTA, which is growing and doing a lot to support the school. This month, the PTA donated $1,400 worth of benches and picnic tables for the campus, so they'll have an outside seating area for the students. Next. Congratulations to students from District 7 who made the all-state dance team, and that is Tiana Duran-Clifton from Molina High School, Jacqueline Hernandez from Sunset High School, and Elise Ronhell from W.H. Adamson High School. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Blackburn.
From District 5, we want to give our kudos to Mr. Sam Franklin and the Dallas Parks and Recreation Department for hosting a fall community impact event at Glendale Park. More than 80 students from South Oak Cliff High School, Townview, Sunset, and Skyline High Schools joined forces to collect non-perishable food items to help support homeless students in the Dallas area. We want to wish congratulations to the following teams that advanced to their athletic playoffs. In District 4, football champions, Oliver Wendell Holmes Middle School, Tigers, undefeated District 6 5A Division II champion, South Oak Cliff High School Golden Bears football team, and in District 8 4A Division I football champions, Wilma Hutchins Eagles and the Lady Eagles volleyball teams, and Sarah Zunwald ladies volleyball team, A and B teams going to the playoffs, and finally Roosevelt High School Mustangs football and the Lady Mustangs volleyball team and the men's cross country are advancing to the playoffs. We're looking for great championships coming out of District 5. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Foreman.
Good evening. From District 6, First to T.L. Marsalis Elementary School hosted a student-led photography exhibit at the Polk Wisdom Branch Library. Students were responsible for capturing an aspect of their community in a photo. Then their teacher had the photos professionally developed for the students at no cost. The best photos were selected for the exhibit and revealed at a reception honoring the 5th grade students. I am so proud of these young artists and encourage community members to support their work by visiting the Polk Wisdom Library, where the photos will be displayed through the remainder of the year. And T.L. Marsalis was really on a roll. They also had a writing contest amongst the students, and one of my charter recruits, Nicholas Sherrod, was a winner. He is actually thriving at T.L. Marsalis, and I'm really proud of Nicholas. I'm also proud of the 12th grade varsity cheerleading captain, Erica Richardson from Carter High School, and cheerleading coach, LaShawn Jacobs, for putting the district on the map. The cheerleading coach duo received an all-expense-paid trip to represent Dallas ISD in this year's Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York. It's an honor that acknowledges the skillful performance and leadership abilities in District 6. And I'll also just like to take a moment to give my condolences to the student who was killed on November the 7th, who was a student at Justin Kimball. So my condolences to the family of Daisy Torres. And also, I am in prayer for the students at the school, because Daisy was a friend of many students. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Mitchke?
Thank you, President Flores. Last week, Ms. Madrid's 3rd grade class from George W. Truett Elementary School met author Greg Pizzoli via Skype. The author read a few of his books to students and answered their questions. Kudos to Truett Elementary for donating $100 to the Alzheimer's Association in support of Mr. Pizzoli. Congratulations also to Brian Adams' 2004 alumnus Dominique Kirk, who was inducted into the Brian Adams Pro Hall of Fame this past weekend. Also, kudos to BA's early college program for being featured this morning on the latest Facebook Live episode of Best Schools in Dallas. It was really a great program, and I think the ratings, Mr. Solis, were a little bit higher than your show this afternoon, which was, Trustee Solis was also on Facebook Live. Yes, you were. I watched it. I'd also like to mention the Brian Adams Academic Decathlon team, which won district for medium-sized school this past Saturday and moves on to regionals in February. And one of the co-sponsors is here tonight, Ms. Birdwell. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your work. And then finally, I'd like to mention the White Rock Lake Championship Battle for the Paddle Swim Meet. Pay attention, Trustee Marshall. The Brian Adams swim team defeated the Woodrow Wilson Wildcats and the Lake Highland Wildcats in this battle. But everyone swam great, and it was a great event. That concludes my report. Oh,
Trustee.
If I might just say this,
Henry.
if you need directions to White Rock Lake, I'll be happy to show you where it is.
Trustee Henry.
First, I want to say kudos to the outstanding Ms. Wakegu Adordu, who's a counselor at Billy Earl Dayton Middle School, on being named 2018 Texas Counselor of the Year by the American School Counselor Association. She is also one of the 6 finalists for the 2019 National School Counselor Award, which honors counselors who devote their careers to serving as advocates for our students. And I think we've heard some people speak to the importance of our counselors this evening. A shout out to the talented young filmmakers of Irma Rangel Young Women's Leadership School, who recently traveled to New York to showcase their award-winning film in the annual American High School Film Festival. In addition, Skyline High School Lady Raiders golf team deserves an A for effort on finishing second in their first tournament of the school year. The world geography teacher and golf coach, and I'll say that again, world geography teacher and golf coach doing more than his fair share. Mr. John Zomer says the team's accomplishments reflects the hard work they put in over the last year learning to play the game. A few more things. At John Ireland Elementary, students are taking a deep dive into social and emotional learning by practicing mindful movement yoga. The campus is led by Principal Stephanie Amaya, who was recently selected as an Elementary Principal of the Year for the W.W. Samuel H. High School feeder pattern. Was a phenomenal leader at one of our campuses. I also want to give kudos to the veteran school leader, Ms. Garrett Jones, who is the new principal of Paul L. Dunbar Learning School, but the longtime stalwart in South Dallas, and she's led Charles Rice for a very long time. She has moved the school to a new level of parent involvement. They've reported that more than 150 parents attended the first PTA meeting. In addition to her role as instructional leader of the campus, she herself has been out in the community knocking on doors, trying to get our parents engaged around our school. So kudos to her. Make sure I'm not missing anything. That's it. I recognize Ms. Sheila Walker, and actually who's a phenomenal community liaison at Lincoln High School, so I just want to acknowledge your work that you do every day at Lincoln. I think I saw, she had a dinner for the kids who are on the A, B honor roll, so just A. Okay, only A, and then you get the good dinner. All A's. So all A's, thank you for doing that and amongst your other roles. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Trustee Henry. Trustee Solis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Several exciting programs and schools were launched this school year in District 8. One that I'm really excited about is the opening of the Arlington Park Early Childhood Center, which is the only Dallas ISD facility to serve 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds in pre-K full day exclusively, drawing students from the neighborhood, from families employed by the nearby hospitals, and others from across the district. The school serves an intentionally diverse mix of students. We've now got up to 10 languages that are spoken at this Early Childhood Center. But they're being taught early to respect each other's differences, and they are getting along well together. Another innovative aspect of the school is that it's an all-day program from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., so it was cool to cut the ribbon there. On November the 7th, the Innovation Design Entrepreneurship Academy at James W. Fannin hosted visiting guests from the Lincoln Public Schools in Lincoln, Nebraska. The educators were in town to visit some of Dallas IC's great magnet and transformation schools. I also want to say thank you to all the veterans that serve as DISD staff members in Dallas ISD. And if there are any veterans in the room, I would ask actually as a point of privilege if you would just stand so that we can recognize you. If there are any veterans in the room. I think. Yeah. So thank you for your service. And then lastly, I want to say thank you to the voters who overwhelmingly supported all 4 of our propositions. I know for many people it was not an easy decision to make, but we had a lot of champions that stepped up for kids and showed up at the polls and supported. I'm happy to report that just by a little bit, District 8, looks like the District 8 voters had the highest percent supporting. We barely beat out District 7 and barely beat out District 9, but we did with about 67% of the vote. So thank you so much to the DISD voters for all your support. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Trustee Resendez.
Thank you, President Flores. District 4 celebrated the official opening of the school for the talented and gifted in Pleasant Grove this month. We were all very proud to cut the ribbon for the first standalone transformation school in our area that, along with Young Women's STEAM Academy at Ball Springs and the Young Men's Leadership Academy at Fred F. Florence, gives District 4 families more choices that best fit their children's educational needs. Also, several of our elementary schools in District 4 received Kindle Amazon tablets, which will help students be better prepared for the technology-rich future. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Resendez. Trustee Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. District 2 report, congrats to the Woodrow Theater Department, which presented its fall play titled Nevermore, The Imaginary Life and Mysterious Death of Edgar Allan Poe. The play was a big success, and the students did a fantastic job. Also, congrats to the J.L. Long's cross-country boys and girls team who ended their season as district champs. Way to go. On October 20th, North Dallas High School's class of 1958 celebrated their reunion by coming back to campus, and they also made a sizable donation to the Greater North Dallas Alumni Association to fund scholarships for current seniors. So congrats and thank you. I also want to thank the Texas Dance Educators Association, which selected 9 DISD students to participate in its all-star dance team. Among those were Anna Weiss of Woodrow and Carolina Gonzalez of North Dallas High School. The TDEA will give each student $10,000 in scholarships towards their higher education. Also, congrats to special ed teacher Leanne Woods of Preston Hollow Elementary. She was the second recipient of the quarterly $250 recognition provided to outstanding teachers by Carter Financial Management. She's able to use these funds for her classroom. Also want to congratulate Susan Moreno of J.L. Long Middle School, who won Teacher of the Year by the Greater East Dallas Chamber of Commerce, and also just want to extend a special thank you to the East Dallas Chamber which does these Teacher of the Year awards every year, and it's a fantastic program. And I was excited to see all four trustees that represent parts of East Dallas were in attendance at the event for the first time ever. On October 27th, the Lady Bucks volleyball team became three-time city champions after defeating Griner 25-19 and 25-14. Their overall district record was 10-0, so fantastic season for the Lady Bucks. On November 3rd, North Dallas celebrated their third annual Dia de los Muertos festival. The art gallery, dance performances, and community celebration were truly inspiring. I want to thank both Hillcrest and Woodrow for including me in their homecoming parades. Both were a big hit. And also want to congratulate the Hillcrest High School girls volleyball team, which is the District 12 4A champions. And lastly, shout out to Sudie Williams Elementary. On November 9th, they held their official ribbon cutting for the new transformation into the Sudie Williams Tag Academy. It was a great event, probably the best attendance I've seen at any ribbon cutting I've been to. So the community is fully behind the school, and I'm excited about it. Thanks so much. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall. I'm going to give the District 1 report, but first of all, I want to remind parents that Dallas ISD's Food and Nutrition Services Department will offer students free meals during the Thanksgiving break. From Monday, November 9th through Wednesday, November 21st, the effort is to ensure students have access to nutritious meals even during breaks from school. Participating schools throughout the district will be serving morning snack from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and lunch from 11 a.m. to noon. Visit the district website for a complete list of participating schools. Next, I want to urge everyone to mark your calendars for December 4th, Tuesday, December 4th at 6 p.m. for the semifinals of the annual, now called Foley Gardner Martin Luther King Jr. Oratory Competition being held at North Dallas High School. You won't want to miss the 16 bright young visionaries reciting their original essays inspired by Dr. King's life and work. Presley Rivers from Harry C. Withers is among the finalists. Good luck to each of the students. Winners will move on to the finals in January, and we look forward to the Withers Wildcats bringing that trophy home again this year. I also want to thank the voters for their support and recognition of our efforts to reform education, not only in North Texas, in the state of Texas, in the United States. The 4 ballot initiatives were supported in all districts overwhelmingly, and we are very grateful to the voters for giving us this opportunity to continue the reform efforts in Dallas ISD. And that's my report. Thank you very much. So the next item is 5.01, consider and take possible action to approve the minutes submitted for approval. Trustees, the following minutes have been submitted for approval. Superintendent's Evaluation Ad Hoc Committee meeting, October 18, 2018. Governance Compliance Ad Hoc Committee meeting, October 18, 2018. Board meeting, October 18, 2018. And the Audit Committee meeting, October 27, 2018. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Mitchke, a second by Trustee Marshall. Since it has been properly moved and seconded, that we adopt the minutes submitted for approval. Trustees, are there any corrections? Hearing none, trustees, please cast your vote.
Okay, there it is. Motion passes 9-0.
Thank you, trustees. Moving on to the next items, Section 6 statutory items which may be appropriately come to the attention of the board, 6.01 and 6.02. 6.01 is conduct the board's constraint self-evaluation according to the TA Lone Star Governance Implementation Integrity Institute, and 6.02, consider and take possible action to conduct the 7th quarter self-evaluation in accordance with the TA Lone Star Governance Implementation Integrity Institute instrument. Dr. Lear, will you please lead us through items 6.01 and 6.02?
Good evening.
Good evening.
The first item is really the board conducting their monthly self-constraint. And November's self-constraint is the board, either collectively or through the actions of individual trustees, shall not be engaged in the day-to-day administrative and operational issues. So if each board
a member can just state if you complied or did not comply and sign. Dino will come by and collect those for you.
And if you want to go ahead and talk about 6.02, please.
Sure. The 6.02 is about our quarterly progress, and I believe each one of you has the quarterly progress, but I'll go through them. Vision 1, which is the first section of Lone Star Governance Framework, we have 1 point. Vision 2, we also have 1 point. Section Vision 3, we have 9 points. Vision 4 is 0.5. Accountability 1, accountability 2, and structure, we have not achieved any points. Advocacy, we have 1, and unity, we have 10, which totals 22.5 points.
Thank you, Dr. Lear. Do we have any comments or questions about this item, trustees? If not, I will be actually making a very quick statement. Oh, Trustee Mitchell?
Oh, I'm sorry, we need to approve this?
No, this is actually something that we do not have to vote on.
Yeah, it's an action.
We do?
Yes.
Okay, so-
Oh, okay, so trustees, do I have a motion to, I guess we have to consider and take possible action to conduct the 7th quarter. So do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Mitch K., a second by Marshall. Trustees, any questions or comments about 6.01 or what we're voting on, 6.02? Okay, well, I do have a quick comment. I believe that at least one of our trustees did not comply with this rule and did engage in the day-to-day administrative and operational issues. I will be reporting, and I will ask the administration to prepare a letter for me to report that to the Deputy Commissioner. And I will also be asking the Deputy Commissioner to come to Dallas ISD to conduct additional Lone Star governance training as a result. So moving right along,
Open
trustees, please cast your vote.
Trustee Foreman's not here.
The motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, trustees. We're on to 6.03. Consider and take possible action to adopt an order canvassing returns and declaring the results of a bond election held in the Dallas Independent School District on November 6, 2018. Trustees, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Mitch K., a second by Trustee Marshall. Trustees, is there any discussion? Hearing none, please cast your votes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, trustees. On to 6.04, consider and take possible action to adopt an order canvassing returns and declaring the results of an election to authorize the purchase of attendance credits as provided by Chapter 41 Texas Education Code held in the Dallas Independent School District on November 6, 2018. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Mitch K., a second by Trustee Marshall. It has been moved and seconded to adopt an order canvassing returns and declaring the returns of an election to authorize the purchase of attendance credits as provided by Chapter 41 Texas Education Code held in the Dallas Independent School District on November 6, 2018. Trustees, is there any discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. We are now on to 6.05, consider and take possible action to adopt an order canvassing returns and declaring the results of a tax ratification election held in the Dallas Independent School District on November 6, 2018. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mitch K., second by Trustee Marshall. It has been moved and seconded to adopt an order canvassing returns and declaring the results of a tax ratification election held in Dallas Independent School District on November 6, 2018. Trustees, any discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote.
Motion passes 8 and 1 abstaining.
Thank you. We're now on to item 7, consent agenda items. We're to consider and take possible action to approve consent items. We have consent agenda items 7.01 through 7.34 as amended. The following items have been pulled for a separate vote: 7.02, 7.05, 7.07, 7.15, 7.21, 7.22, and 7.23. Item 7.10 has been pulled from the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been a motion by Mitch K., second by Marshall. It has been moved and seconded to approve consent agenda items 7.01 through 7.34 as amended. Please cast your votes.
The motion passes 9-0.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm checking something on the agenda. So we have a question about, so are these all the items that for the election that we need to consider? Okay, thank you. I believe we approved the consent agenda item, so now we're going to move on to Section 8, which is to consider and take possible action, 8.01, consider and take possible action to approve the recommended members to serve on the 2018-2019 Dallas ISD School Health Advisory Council, no financial impact. Consent item 7.02, pulled due to the revision. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Trustee Mitch K., second by Trustee Marshall. Trustees, any discussion? Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 9-0.
On to item 8.02, consider and take possible action to authorize, negotiate, and enter into an agreement with Computer Logic Group, Inc. for an attendance tracker and software for the district not to exceed $300,000 over 3 years. General operating bond, special revenue fund. Consent item 7.05 pulled by Trustees Joyce Foreman and Lou Blackburn. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Trustee Mitch K., second by Trustee Marshall. Trustees, any discussion?
Yes.
Trustee Foreman.
Waiting for somebody to come up. Good evening.
Good evening.
So just a few questions. So this is maintenance for all of Power School? All the programs are just?
No, ma'am. So this is a separate application. Currently, our truancy system is separate from Power School, the student information system. This would to replace our legacy truancy system.
So, but that's not what this says. So it says is that it's for yearly maintenance and support for Power School. So if it's replacing a system,
Fully integrated. So it's a separate application that works with Power School. It's not replacing Power School.
so you see why I struggle, right? Because if I don't get accurate information, it makes it difficult for me to try to make an informed decision. So it's a separate application?
Yes, ma'am.
That will be in conjunction with Power School?
Correct.
And so what are we currently using?
We call it, what's it called? SAMS. We have a name for it, SAMS. It's a in-house developed application.
Okay, and so it wasn't sufficient?
The application's about 8 years old, and with it needs to be updated due to security and some other features that the truancy department needed.
Well, I'll actually be voting against this because I didn't get accurate information. It's misleading. Thank you.
Trustees, if there are no, any other questions, please cast your vote.
Motion passes, 8 voting yes, 1 voting no.
Thank you, trustees. Now on to item 8.03, consider and take possible action to approve the annual targets for student outcome goals, goal progress measures, and constraints progress measures as part of the Lone Star Governance Program, no financial impact. Consent item 7.07, voted by trustees Joyce Foreman and Lou Blackburn. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Mitchke, second by trustee Marshall. Trustees, any discussion?
Yes.
Trustee Foreman.
Pam?
Yes.
So, and I think we've had this conversation, and I don't know if I got an answer regarding how is this Lone Star Governance Program actually helping us in our schools?
So, as the board, the intent I believe of the board was for Lone Star Governance to really provide a continuous improvement model for steering us and guiding us on student outcome goals.
So how is it helping us with student outcome goals?
Well, I think it provides a framework for guiding us to reach our student outcome goals and goal progress measures.
So we didn't have a framework prior to Lone Star Governance?
I'm sure that we had a district framework, but as a board and as administration, we chose and opted to use Lone Star Governance.
No, we didn't choose. Remember, we were forced to use Lone Star Governance.
If I were allowed to elaborate, the board did come up with our own district goals prior to the advent of Lone Star Governance, but because of our performance, we were required to go through the Lone Star Governance training because we had the significant numbers of improvement required schools. Since then, we've made a lot of progress, but one of the things that the Lone Star Governance program did bring was a requirement to have SMART specific goals that needed to be attainable regarding student achievement, and we had to narrow the number of goals that we had. We reluctantly did, but in retrospect, the district has improved a lot, and we are focused on very specific goals, and so that is how it has impacted academic achievement in the district.
So, Superintendent, I heard what you said, but could you please just elaborate on how specifically it has improved? Because we had KPIs before Lone Star Governance. So can you just tell me specifically how it's been able to do that?
The goal progress measures required us to have very specific outcomes every year up until 2022. And in the past, we had goals, but they weren't as specific. Now we have picked certain goal progress measures under every goal that we have to accomplish, that we strive to accomplish every year in every regard. So it made it more specific, it made it tighter, and I think it has helped improve the district.
So did I hear you say up until 2022?
That's when the goals were laid out, yes, the specific goal progress, the goals and then the goal progress measures.
So, but that doesn't say that we will be from under Lone Star Governance in 2022.
I think that is correct. I think that now that we have only 4 improvement required schools, and that none of them are multi-year improvement required schools. I don't think there's any longer a requirement that we,
So it's a choice.
I believe so.
And has this board voted on the choice? Since it's a choice and not a requirement?
I can't say that the board had a vote. I do know that we have the ad hoc committee that meets on a monthly basis, and part of that work is guided by the Lone Star governance.
Ad hoc committees don't speak for the board. Thank you.
Thank you, trustees. Any other questions? Hearing none, please cast your vote.
The motion passes 8 voting yes, 1 voting no.
Thank you, trustees. We're on to item 8.04, consider and take possible action to authorize, negotiate, and enter into agreements with recommended vendors to purchase school buses as part of the replacement program for aging school bus fleet, not to exceed $25 million over 2 years, with 2 one-year renewal options using general operating funds, special revenue funds, bond funds. Consent item 7.15 pulled by trustees Joyce Foreman and Lou Blackburn. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Mitchke, second by trustee Marshall. Any discussion?
Yes.
Trustee Foreman.
First, thank you for the detailed information. Thank you. That does help me to make decisions. But a couple of questions. Question number 1 is, how many buses did we receive when Dallas County Schools went out?
Yeah, 987 that are in service, and there's about 20 to 25 that we consider in the graveyard, no longer runnable, and they'll be auctioned off.
So of the 987, are we using all those buses currently?
Yes, ma'am.
Every one of them?
Yeah, I mean, we typically have some breakdowns, so there's some in the shops at times, but we don't need all 987 in order to run our daily routes.
So how many buses are we running daily? Do we know?
I would say approximately 800 to 825.
Okay, it's about 800. Okay, and the other question is, do we still use any of the luxury liners that we were using before the coach buses?
We have a total of 9 of the coach buses.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, trustees. Any other questions? Trustee Pinkerton.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, I think, a quick one. So voters did pass a proposition authorizing bonds, sale of bonds to be used for purchase of buses. So for this particular item, if approved tonight, will it be used, will the bond money be used for these purchases?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And then the second one is, we heard a speaker tonight, and I know I've been contacted by 2 constituents, I just forwarded the information to you, concerned about the fact that this RFP is for diesel buses versus more environmentally friendly buses. So what consideration has the Transportation Department given to different types of buses and the pros and cons of looking at something more environmentally friendly?
Yeah, we have looked at both the electric buses and the propane buses, but to be very honest, not in significant detail. So our first purchase for this year would be for the diesel buses, but we will continue to look at that because we plan on making purchases every year for the next 10 years on the buses.
Would you mind sharing with the board when you finish your analysis, just so we can also understand the pros and cons?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Trustees, any other questions? Trustee Blackburn.
Just want to make sure that I heard that we said we're going to use the funds from the bus bond that was approved recently. this document does not say that. It actually says that we will use general operating funds and special revenue funds and bond funds.
Yes, when this document was initially prepared, we didn't know what the outcome of the tax ratification election would eventually become. So we knew we needed to buy buses anyway, but now that the voters have spoken, we will use those funds and not have to use operating funds to purchase these buses.
So can we modify the motion that only bus bond funds will be used? Is that appropriate?
Go ahead.
On that one, sir, we did that also, as Dr. Hinojosa said, but also we wanted to leave it available to use any of our funds, so we've got a strategic contract in place. And that's the reason we're asking for that, we asked for that, in addition to the way Dr. Hinojosa said.
So it sounds like we might be using other funds besides the $60 million that the voters approved.
That's not our intention, but that leaves us that possibility in a way that we can, so it can fit any of the needs we have in the district, sir.
It's our intent to use the bond funds, the bus bond funds. That's what they were passed for. $60 million allows for $6 million a year over 10 years, which would allow for the purchase of approximately 60 buses every year.
I'll come back to you after we purchase these buses, okay?
All right.
Trustees, hearing no other discussion, please cast your vote.
Motion passes 9-0.
Thank you, trustees. On to item 8.05, consider and take possible action to approve the proposed 2019-2020 campus staffing formulas consent item 7.21 pulled by trustees Audrey Pinkerton and Lou Blackburn. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Trustees, any discussion? Trustee Pinkerton.
I submitted an amendment for this particular item. I don't see it posted here. Can we get this, can we get the amendment posted? Yes. Okay, thank you. And then there is an amendment to this, so I guess I'll move to amend this particular item in accordance with the amendment that I submitted to Board Services yesterday. Do we have a copy of that, Dino? You didn't make copies for the board? No. A hard copy for discussion? Okay. President Flores, would you like to move on to the next agenda item while we wait for the copies to be provided?
I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, so we're going to switch over to item 7.06, consider and take possible action to approve the proposed 2019-2020 non-position campus formulas consent item 7.22 pulled by trustees Audrey Pinkerton, Joyce Foreman, and Lou Blackburn. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Mitchke, second by trustee Marshall. Any discussion? Trustee Pinkerton.
My questions were answered.
Oh, okay.
After I pulled this.
Any other question? Okay, there are no questions. Please cast your vote.
Trustee Marshall. Trustee Marshall. Thank you. Motion passes 9-0.
Thank you, trustees. We'll go back to 8.05. Are we ready? Oh, okay. Well, we can go on to 8.07 and come back to 8.05. Okay. Trustees, 8.07, consider and take possible action to authorize an increase to the existing agreements and multiple vendors for the purchase of student and staff computing devices for district-wide use, including deployment and other services not to exceed $5 million, $25 million aggregate through August 2020, general operating bonds, special service funds, consent item 7.23 pulled by trustees Joyce Foreman and Lou Blackburn. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by trustee Mitchell, second by trustee Marshall. Trustees, any questions?
Yes.
Trustee Foreman.
Good
Hi,
evening.
Jack. The last time we talked about this particular item, you indicated that there was already a request for proposal out
Yes, ma'am.
for an additional item.
That's correct.
Do we know what that total amount is? Has it been completed
For the new contract?
for the new contract?
No, ma'am. I think we're still too early in the process. I think the RFP may be closed, but I think we're going through the evaluation process.
Okay, do we have any estimate of what we would be needing for that particular contract?
We haven't done the estimates yet, but I would venture that it's going to be a large contract, probably around $100 million.
So, again, I will reiterate my concerns about this because these contracts are specifically for devices.
Yes, ma'am.
And I will say again that I am more concerned about finding equity in the technology area for all of the schools. And I know you say that's a part of the long-range plan, but there is no plan that's been presented to me that actually shows when you're going to bring all of these schools up to the same level. And prior to you getting here, I've harangued about it a lot. About the fact that in the 2008 bond, there were supposed to be specific items that were going to bring the schools up to parity. The new schools are fine. It's the older schools that are struggling. And so we continue to talk about devices, but we don't talk about parity. And so since everybody is so excited about the dollars that we received from the voters, I hope that this district will begin to talk about how do we equalize our schools instead of worrying about devices. How do we equalize our schools to make sure that all of these schools and all of our children are getting the same opportunity? And I will say it again. In my district, it's a technology desert because I have a lot of older schools. And I'm uncomfortable that we are stuck on devices, but we're not stuck on bringing everything up to equal. Thank you.
Trustees, any other discussion? Jack, just real quick, I thought we had gotten a report on kind of Wi-Fi across all this. I thought that was part of the long-range master plan, and the data was in that report.
Is part of the long-range master plan?
Yeah. Because I remember looking and seeing, like Wi-Fi, where was Wi-Fi good? I remember seeing some of my schools,
Yes, sir. So you'll recall we did the Learn rubric assessment of each campus, and so each campus was assigned a score. Wi-Fi was part of that. I think there were 12 different domains that were evaluated at each campus. And so we are using that data to drive the prioritization and the implementation schedule of the technology replacement and upgrades in the schools.
Right, so the schools that are the farthest behind will probably go first.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It'd be just good to I know that there was a summary, I remember seeing a summary by trustee district. If we could just get a copy of that, in our whatever packet tomorrow or next week, just whenever, so that we all have a copy of it, but I remember.
Actually, sir, if I could comment, so we have not published the final version of the long-range master plan for technology.
Thank you very much.
It was a final draft.
Come out of this chair.
That's currently on the website. We're just going through the final edits. There were just some typos and cosmetics and that sort of thing. So the final plan should be published here very soon.
Right, but before that, we'd already seen from your office some analysis of our
Yes, sir. I don't believe the data has not materially changed.
Okay, right, the data has not materially changed. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
No, it's a comment. And the comment is that, yes, you brought forth a plan, but you brought forth no implementation schedule to bring those particular schools up. So I'm very much aware of the plan. If I don't do anything else, I read a lot. And the plan talked about using, it was several particular issues that you were raising regarding the schools behind. We have not had a finalized plan. And I know that President Flores is trying to make it seem well and all is good. All is not. I don't just say things to be saying things. I'm saying things because I'm concerned about children, not about trying to make adults feel good. I'm concerned about children. And all of these children have the same access. That's what I'm concerned about. And I'm going to continue to talk about it, and you cannot undermine what I say. I will not allow that.
Dr. Hinojosa?
Yeah, I'm going to respectfully disagree. I think that Mr. Kalanick has done an outstanding job of recovering our technology plan. He has developed a deployment plan. Part of that is making sure that everything works everywhere. But we have reported to the board, and it was reported to the District Advisory Committee recently, of that deployment schedule, where we are going to start with teachers first. We are going to start at A schools. We are going to start at middle schools, and then we're going to go along the way and capture all of the schools in a very specific, defined rollout process, which has been communicated. Mr. Kalanick, anything to correct that I just said?
No, sir. It's a 3-year implementation plan. We're in year 1 right now. We've already started the deployment of several schools. We do have a schedule of schools for the rest of this year, and to the superintendent's point, I think I did address some of those points in the memo, the tracker supporting this item, specifically the objectives and the projects that we're working on right now.
The deployment of what? Of devices?
Yes, ma'am.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about devices. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, trustees. Any other questions? If not, please cast your vote.
The motion passes 9-0.
Thank you, trustees. We're now going to move back to item 8.05. Consider and take possible action to approve the proposed 2019-2020 campus staffing formulas consent item 7.21 pulled by trustees Rodri, Pinkerton, and Lou Blackburn. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Mitke. We have a second by trustee Marshall. Trustees? Trustee Pinkerton.
I move to amend this agenda item with the amendment that is in front of you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the Pinkerton amendment. Trustee Pinkerton?
All right, thank you.
Who seconds that?
Black, thank you. All right, thank you very much. Does someone from administration want to come up? In case there's
No, we were not consulted in this. We were not consulted on this amendment. So I don't know what the administration would have to add.
Okay.
Trustee Pinkerton?
Yeah, and Dr. Hinojosa, your administration was consulted on the amendment. You may or may not agree with the amendment, but you were consulted.
Well, anybody who was consulted with, please come up with. I was not.
And I'm happy to go through it, and if the board has questions, then that sounds fine. But first of all, I want to thank the administration for the opportunity to review and provide input on the campus staffing formulas for next year, for 2019-2020. And I want to start out by saying how pleased I am to see that the calculation for the number of teachers in a school has been changed in a way that will result in having more teachers in the school. And more teachers in a school means smaller class sizes. And I think that's a very good thing. So I want to say thank you for that decision there. I've spent some time over the last couple of weeks since this was presented to us on November 1st, meeting with parents and staff, and getting their input on the staffing formulas and what they thought. And I will tell you that there was an overwhelming call for two things. One was more counselors. So our current formula for calculating the number of counselors provided to a campus can result in up to one counselor handling up to 675 students. That's a lot. The state recommendation is 250 to 1, and while I recognize that a lot of districts don't honor that recommendation, ours is very high. We heard earlier tonight a very moving testimony from a Sunset High School student about the importance of counselors. And I just want to reinforce what that young lady said. The mental health needs in our schools, just like the mental health needs in our society, are ever increasing. Our college and career guidance needs, because of our very positive focus on college and career readiness, are increasing. Social emotional learning is an initiative that this district has undertaken. It's a very positive thing for students, and it is something that we absolutely rely on our counselors to help us implement. It's another responsibility for our counselors. And finally, our new discipline policy that we passed, it does not allow suspensions for students under second grade and younger. Is meant to be very positive. We know that suspensions of those students really aren't helping, but in fact, when those students stay in the school, they need to be helped in the school, and that is also another responsibility for counselors. So we ask a lot of our counselors, and we need more support in this area. The second thing that they absolutely called for was more safety monitors in our high schools. We also heard a student testimony talking about the importance of safety monitors. We need monitors for a couple of reasons. One is we need oversight of our entrances and our hallways when students are coming in the morning and during passing periods and lunch periods. We also need them to help reduce truancy, especially in high schools that are laid out in such a way, like most of the ones in my district are, where students leave the main building legitimately to go across the parking lot and across the street to another building to attend class. And it's a perfect opportunity, unfortunately, for a student to take a right turn or a left turn and maybe go somewhere else than where they're meant to be. And monitors can help in that regard. I want to read to you, and pull it up here, a letter from a constituent. I think this went out to all trustees regarding this issue. It says, this is a safety issue. Currently, counselors are dealing with too many students that are suicide risk. Campus staff are seeing a sharp increase in the students that are in mental health crisis. Students are showing greater levels of stress, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, poor sleeping patterns than any time in our nation's history. We can't sit back and wait for a disaster to happen and then react after the fact. So for this reason, I've put forward an amendment that would add counselors and safety monitors to our campuses through the staffing formulas. And I will just finish with this. As we vote tonight to set the staffing formulas for next year, we would be remiss if we did not take this opportunity to meet these pressing needs. So I hope that all board members will vote in favor of this amendment.
Any other discussion? Trustee
Yes.
Foreman?
Just a couple of things, and Dr. Hinojosa, I know you said staff didn't want to say anything, but you know, I've had a tough 2 weeks, and staff knows that. I had a serious fight at one high school, and then I turned around and had another serious incident at my other comprehensive high school. And our schools are microcosms of our society. And our young people are really struggling. I don't know the cost of these additional positions, but I would think that we would take it into consideration. Safety monitors, most of your older schools have several entrances and exits. And to think that 2 or 3 people can actually monitor all of those, they can't. In one of my high schools, somebody opened a door and allowed people into the school that should not have been there and created a chaos that I'm still struggling with. This unpaid position is still struggling with because I care about kids. We just asked the voters to give more money to the district, but we're not open enough to ensure that those dollars get to the campuses to protect our kids. We should be open at all times to interests and concerns that directly affect what's going on our campuses. The high school counselors have about 500 kids each. How in the world do you think one person is going to be able to deal with 500 kids? I don't even want to see 500 kids at one time. That's a lot. That's a lot. We're having trouble even in our elementary schools. So I think that number is about 450. It would have really been nice if someone could have come up with an amount that would actually look at what this amendment is bringing forward. But my heart tells me that I am tired of spending money on administrative costs. I am ready to spend money on children. That's what we're here for. Thank you.
Trustee Marshall.
So I certainly agree that we ask our counselors to do too many things, and I think a ratio of 450 to 1 is incredibly challenging. And you know, this is a conversation that I think is worth having. But these staffing formulas, Stephanie, were shared with the board when? How long have we had these?
At the board briefing 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and there wasn't any discussion about the staffing formulas at that meeting, right?
No, sir.
Yeah, and when was this amendment proposed?
I was copied on the amendment yesterday.
Okay, so have we had a chance to, I mean, to Trustee Foreman's point, have we even had a chance to figure out what this would cost? I mean, we're being asked to vote on something here in a few minutes that just came to my, I mean, I got it in my inbox this morning. Do y'all know what the implications of this would be? Do we even know how many new counselors the new formula would have across all of our schools and what that would cost?
No, sir. I did have a conversation with Trustee Pinkerton prior to the amendment with regard to coming back and looking at it and seeing what we could, maybe there would be something we could reevaluate, but that I was not comfortable being able to support without knowing the cost and doing some more analysis.
Right, and there's a timeline component of setting the staffing formulas at a certain point in the year so that we can then proceed to get the budget ready for next year.
The budget timeline.
Right, and so when you say you could come back later and look at proposing something else. Is that a change to the counselor ratio that you're thinking through later in the year?
I'm certainly open to looking at it, to bringing Dr. Hinojosa, but I would need to visit, obviously, with the CFO and have conversations about, I mean, there are no new dollars to the operations of our schools. As you all know far better than I, the TRE has specific plans that were outlined. So I would still have to go back. I can't come forward to Dr. Hinojosa with a request, in my view, from my couple of years of doing this, with something that would not be a reasonable. I am still certainly willing to look at it. And in fact, last year we came back. Rosemont was one of the schools that I brought back with some changes to those staffing ratios after getting some input, and that was after the fact.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you bringing up the TRE because, you know, from the rhetoric we've heard so far tonight, it sounds like there's this notion that, you know, we just got a blank check from the taxpayers and, you know, we can spend this money as we see fit. But it wasn't, I mean, it was less than a month ago that we were all sitting around this table and Trustee Pinkerton brought forward a resolution asking us to put that money aside in the assigned fund balance, specifically so that it couldn't be spent on what I believe she referred to as frivolous items that any trustee could come up with. Now, I certainly wouldn't suggest that paying, you know, having more counselors is a frivolous item. That's not a word I would have chosen, but I find it strange that we're acting as if we have this money to spend when we were asked a month ago to restrict our ability to spend it. So we've now put Larry and the administration in a position where there isn't any extra money because it's all been earmarked. And now we're being asked tonight to spend more money that we don't have, and without even knowing how much money that is, because we've, you know, didn't discuss it at the briefing in a timely fashion. So I don't think we can come up with a decision in a few seconds here around a board table about an amendment that was made the day of the board meeting without the administration's input, without any data being brought to the board, and, you know, as deserving as counselors may be and as big as the need may be, it's not something that I think we can support, or at least that I can support today. And you know, as we're leading into future conversations about where we spend our dollars, you know, I think we have to rely on the administration to come forward to the board and think about the trade-offs that are implicit in any budget decision. If we add additional counselors or additional safety folks, that money has to come from somewhere, which implies that there's some sort of cut. And it doesn't sound like, Stephanie, that you've had an opportunity to come up with any proposal of where that money would be cut from in order to fund these new counselors. Is that right?
Not at this time, and I did want, for the record, just to be completely clear on the data. Last year, or the previous school year, not this 18-19 school year, the 17-18 school year, we had 370 counselors. We increased that by 12. We have 382 this year, because I did make some adjustments to some of the formulas, which included helping some elementaries that previously weren't getting any counselors, and also using the number rounding up. So some of those counselors now we actually got a counselor, because before if you had, let's say you got at a high school 3.5 counselors, you would get 3. And this past school year from 3.5, you would get 4, not 3. So some of those affected where the 12 that we got increased from the previous school year. So adding additional counselors at a lower ratio obviously are going to have significant dollars, and I know I can get the information, but I don't have that information readily available, or to make suggestions on what we would do away with in order to fund that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're in favor of increasing the number of counselors, because that's definitely something that I would love for this board to discuss, and I look forward to you bringing back some future conversation about that. But I do think that there's a governance issue here, and as this board is making decisions, we need to be armed with the data to make those decisions. And when an amendment is tossed in at the last second without any data around it, it's hard to make a decision, no matter how well-deserving that project or initiative may be. And I would add, Trustee Pinkerton had a quote in the paper right after the last meeting where she said, "What happens when you get the money in February and you have $126 million sitting in the bank? I suspect one of the board members will have a well-deserving project that will only take $10 million, and then slowly each of you will take a little chunk at a time." I find it pretty interesting that here we are a few mere weeks later, and we're having this conversation without the consent of the administration. So I'll be voting against this.
Trustee Mitchke?
Okay, well, I certainly agree with the need for more counselors and to improve safety. I also think we need more custodians, and we need a better ratio for librarians and for teachers' assistants. I'd like us to see the economic implications and how we can fit this into our budget and what we have to sacrifice to get there. So I don't even think that the number of counselors that are being proposed on this list is enough for what we really need. The question is how are we going to staff it? How are we going to pay for it? And I'm very uncomfortable with a last-minute amendment to try to fix something that all of us agree we need more counselors. All of us agree we need to improve safety. All of us agree, even though it's not in the amendment, that we need more library support. We know that our custodians are overwhelmed. So we all agree with these things. But to do it in a last-minute amendment without the administration having weighed in on all the financial implications, including what we're going to have to sacrifice to get more of this, I don't feel comfortable in doing that. So, Mr. President, I am going to move to suspend the rules and to postpone indefinitely Trustee Pinkerton's motion.
Second.
And then, Mr. President, I understand this requires to suspend the rules requires a supermajority.
Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules. Any discussion?
And you want to do this without hearing all the discussions about it?
The parliamentarian is...
The motion for, to suspend the rules, that's not debatable.
No, it's not debatable?
No.
Okay.
So I go to my colleague and say, are you saying that you don't want to hear any more discussion about it?
So Trustee Blackburn, you want to, you also have something to say? I mean, Dan can withdraw his motion if he wants
Trustee
to let...
Mr. made a motion. I understand the parliamentarian's ruling on that. I'm just asking.
I will withdraw the motion temporarily for further discussion.
Okay.
I withdraw the second.
So the motion's been withdrawn for further, Trustee Blackman.
So how much will this cost, this item that we're voting on right now?
On which item, for clarity?
The item, the main item.
I would need
for it?
CFO Larry Thrum to tell us what the whole item would cost.
I hear people talking about cost, but what I'm seeing on here, there is no cost associated with it.
Because this is the entire budget.
If I could take over here, this is the motion says an additional counselor per each comprehensive middle school. So we would have to calculate what that would be. An additional counselor for each comprehensive high school, and then additional 2 safety monitors at each comprehensive high school. So we would have to do a calculation of how many bodies that is. Then we have to take the salaries, benefits, and all of those items, and come up with a fiscal note, which is also called an exceptional item to your budget. And this is not something we're comfortable doing without the staff. Larry doesn't do this on his own. He's got a team that helps him come up with this information. So the request is we don't have enough information to give you an accurate estimate, but it would be at least in the millions of dollars because, you know.
A very conservative estimate would be $4.5 million.
So let me restate my question. The main motion, consider and take possible action to approve the proposed 2019-2020 campus staffing formulas. How much would that cost? So if we're talking about how much something's going to cost, the main motion, how much would it cost just to approve the staffing allocations?
I don't think anybody has an idea what it would cost because we don't know what the wages of each of these people are that we're going to be hiring. We're approving positions. There are very few changes in our staffing guidelines from previous years. The counselors, we're not making any recommendation for changing on the counselors. We're not making any recommendations for changing on the librarians. We're not making any recommendations for changing on the safety monitors. It's what we've had. Now, what we will have is different people with different levels of experience, and we may hire a $51,000 teacher or somebody with experience at 60. So for us to say exactly how much that is, we don't know what the experience of these people are. And in the teaching staff alone, we typically hire somewhere around 1,200 new teachers. So we will know how much it costs after we hire everybody and add up the salaries. We will know that.
Yeah, my point is that we don't have a dollar amount attached to this document, this vote. So when we talk about, we don't know how much extra it's going to cost. We don't know how much the initial cost is going to be. And when we talk about what we want to do at our campuses, when we talk about the safety and security of our campuses, and Dr. Hinojosa may recall that I've sent a few emails just recently about South Oak Cliff at Village Fair, and my response was, that I received was that we don't have the buzzers at the high school. We don't have the secure vestibules at the high school. We have people manning those front doors mainly, but not the side doors, not the other doors. We have people. We're depending on people to be at the main entrance of each of our high schools and probably each of our middle schools to secure the entrance of our buildings. So when we talk about the safety and security of our students and our staff, and in some ways we try to minimize the addition of staff to help out with that. And when we talk about the social and emotional learnings for our students, when we talk about trying to keep the student discipline down, then we don't want to have time for our counselors to work with students on issues like that. But yet, we insist that our student achievement, academic achievement, rises. We insist that we get good climate surveys. We insist on all these other things. I mean, even when we're talking about monitors on the buses, we hear that only the buses that have special ed students can get monitors, yet it's the other buses that are having problems. The bus drivers are leaving us because of the problem that our students are causing on the buses, but yet we don't want to take time to have additional staff on the buses to monitor the buses. Yet still, we expect high student achievement. Now, whether or not this passes tonight, or if we come back and make some amendments later, I think staff need to think about what goes on outside and around the classrooms. We need to think about what happens before the kids gets into the early learning classrooms. We need to think about what happens to the kids before they get into the collegiate academies, which all have one counselor, whether they have 200 kids or 400 kids. We need to think about what happens to all the choice schools and how many counselors they have and how many monitors they have, whether they have 100 kids or 200 kids or 400 kids. We need to think about what we're doing as far as our compensation for our staff. And if you've taken note, I've talked about each of our initiatives and how safety impacts each of those, and how counselors for our students and our staff impacts each of those. I'll repeat, in our collegiate academies, each one of them has a full-time counselor, whether they have 200 kids on the campus or 400. Not too many of our collegiate academies are over 400 kids. In our collegiate academies, they have a full-time counselor with less than 400 kids many of the times. The kids who need our services, we are putting them to the side. Mr. Superintendent, I would ask that you come back with an amendment to this staffing allocations later on. Thank you.
Thank you, trustees. Any other comments? Trustee Pinkerton?
I do.
Oh, I'm sorry, still in the first round. Trustee Solis? Look, I'll come back.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I had a couple questions related to, well, one question related to the upcoming legislative session. I know that the governor has said multiple times now that he is very adamant in making sure that we can adequately and equitably fund our schools across the state, and that one of his proposals is to ensure that we can make our campuses more secure, whether that is to fund more counselors, fund more safety officers, or people of that ilk. Dr. Hinojosa, are there, and I know that you've had conversations with the governor personally, do you have any idea as to what that is beginning to manifest itself into related to the legislative session, and then, if it might be helpful in trying to do some of the work that this amendment would propose?
I wouldn't get our hopes up. The commissioner in his legislative appropriations request, which is called LAR, he requested some funds, and he was given $100 million for safety, but they told him not to use it on personnel. They told him to use it on one-time costs. So if you hire personnel, you're going to have to pay them this year, next year, and the following year. But they said he could use it for one-time expenditures, such as wands and other things, and not for recurring costs in personnel.
Got it. I think another thing that I would like to see, because I do agree with the spirit of this amendment, I want to make sure that I'm very clear on that. And I think there might be ways to be able to come back to the table later on down the road with a thoughtful approach to how we would tackle this issue. I heard Ms. Gilperry earlier today, who, I have a tremendous amount of respect for the work that she does and the work that librarians do in Dallas ISD. When I think about the biggest issue that we face in this district when we're talking about student achievement, and that's reading, there's no better group of people than librarians to help be a value add to trying to close the gap when it comes to reading. They're not on this list, and I think they could be on this list. So I don't want to have a conversation about counselors without having a conversation about librarians. So I can't support this amendment tonight, but I'd love to have a conversation in the future about counselors and librarians. And Ms. Perry, I want to say thank you for being here tonight to speak up for librarians. Another thing I'm a little concerned about is our resolution and what we said, or what most of us said about what we were going to do related to the monies from the tax ratification election. So it's my assumption that anything that we would do on counselors would have to come from the general operating fund. Mr. President, as the president of the board, I mean, how do you interpret this? Where we're going to get these funds from?
Point of information, I want to clarify one thing, and that is our discussion last month was on the...
Hold on, point of order, but point of information would mean that you need to ask me a question.
Right.
Oh, did you understand last month that the resolution was about the surplus funds that are coming in 2018, 2019, and that this discussion is about the budget for 2019, 2020?
The resolution was when we get monies from the TRE, regardless of when we get those monies from the TRE, that we have earmarked those funds for what is embedded in that document. 8 of us agreed to that, so that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you. So you did not understand the difference. Thank you.
So for you, as a question to you, as a point of information, where are we getting these monies from to pay for the increase in the counselors that you'd like to have?
So the resolution...
No, that's not, I'm asking you about where are we getting the money?
Right.
As a point of order on the amendment, where are we getting the monies that you've yet to identify from, if it's not from the new revenue that we'll get as we incur that revenue through the tax ratification election?
Right. So this is about revenue that will come in 2019, 2020.
Where's the revenue coming in from?
It's coming from a combination of local and state funds.
Okay, and are any of those revenues through the tax ratification election?
They might or might not be, depending on how Larry
Great.
decides to allocate them.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. President, let me go back to the question that I asked, which is the exact same question that I asked you. Where are we going to get these monies from if we can't touch the funds based on the resolution from the TRE?
I have no idea.
That's what okay. So I'm pretty sure I'm clear on where we would have to get the monies from, and that would be from the general operating fund, separate and aside from the funds earmarked through the tax ratification election. Now, if we were going to take the action tonight, and it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that, but were we to take a vote on the amendment that's proposed right now, there's something that we can do. We talk all the time about administrative costs, and we talk about central staff, and we talk about central administration. I was really moved by the student that came from Sunset. The students that came from Sunset. They clearly have been thinking about this for some time. It's only one school, but I'm willing to give up a little bit to make sure that at least that school gets what they need, or towards what they need. The combined budget of this board, the funds that we're able to use is $90,000. How much would it cost to hire 2 staff members, safety monitors, for Sunset High School?
Yeah. A little less than 90,000.
All right. So if we're going to entertain this motion a little further, I'd make an amendment on top of the amendment that we've got, Mr. President, that we allocate all of the money from this point moving forward, from the board budget related to travel and professional development, to fund 2 safety monitors from Sunset High School. If we'll continue the discussion on this particular item, I hope that I'd get a second on that, but I'll wait until the final discussion before we take up Trustee Mitch K's amendment on postponing indefinitely. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Solis. Any other questions? Over on this side, Trustee, well, now we're going to do second round. So, Trustee Foreman?
Thank you. Resolutions are not binding, period. They're not binding. We've done resolutions before. They're not binding. And so I'm not fooled by that. And that particular resolution that Trustee Solis is referring to was for this year only. For this year only. Not for the 2019-2020 year that we're now talking about. So that really kind of set me back. I'm not interested in giving up funds for my professional development and also for my district. I love Sunset. They got the best band in the land. Literally, I'm envious. I love them. But all of our schools, all of our comprehensive high schools, particularly the older schools, need more monitors. Need more monitors. And we can beat this to death, but what I'd like to see is that this gives us an opportunity as a group of 10 to be able to come up with a solution. I'm in support of Trustee Pinkerton, but I understand I can count to 5, Mr. Superintendent. And so we probably do not have the votes to get this passed. But what I am clearly asking you, Mr. Superintendent, not you, Stephanie, I'm not put you in that spot, but I'm asking the superintendent, who reports directly to this board. I'm asking the superintendent to come back to this board with some kind of analysis that will look at a part of what this resolution is. And if there is an opportunity to change the staffing formula, I think that we should look at that. I don't want to beat on this too long, but the most important thing to me is making sure our campuses have what they need. And we need to continue to make sure our campuses get what they need. And if this staffing formula is gonna pass tonight, which, I know the 5 votes up here, I would like to, Mr. Superintendent, for you to at least come back to the board, looking at the items that are in this resolution, and we have another discussion about them.
Trustee Pinkerton?
All right, thank you. Yeah, so I want to start by clarification. The resolution that we talked about last month went through an extensive legal review, and our outside counsel was very clear that the only money that this board could earmark, set aside, et cetera, were monies that were coming in during this school year when this particular board is serving. We could not earmark money for future years. So clearly, the resolution, just to be very clear, has to do with money, surplus money that will be coming in this budget year. Let me contrast that with what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about the budget for next year. Certainly, that budget will be enhanced, increased by the passage of the TRE, so that's great. The budgeting process requires tough choices. That's just the nature of budgeting. And the budgeting process is not very precise, is it, Larry?
It's not, it is pretty precise within 1 or 2%. I mean, $1.5 billion and you're off 2%, it's 30 million.
Right.
But it's still.
And you do a good job and you put in contingencies for this and that, but you're never going to know the exact salaries of the employees you'll have next year until we get to next year. That's why we report budget versus actual. Okay, so the budgeting process is based on estimates. It would be possible to estimate, probably take less than an hour for one of your budget staff folks to put together the number of new employees this amendment's talking about times some average salary for that type of employee. It really wouldn't be hard, and it's exactly the kind of thing that you'll be doing through the budgeting process since you won't know the exact salaries, okay? And I understand the administration's desire to take some time to look at this. Chief Elizalde and I had a conversation. I know she wants to take some time to really dig in and think through this. I think a lot of other trustees have brought up some wonderful points about other positions, librarians, other positions that might be needed in our schools. So I think there's a couple of ways to do this. I think we could vote now to increase the number of counselors and safety monitors, and you could do your study, and you could come back to the board later to explain why we didn't need that many. Or we could vote today on the staffing formulas in the original agenda item and hope that you'll come back later with more positions. And I know that that's the approach that we took last November. And I got a commitment from the superintendent that these ratios would be changed. I know there were a few adjustments made in a few areas, but overall the ratios did not change. And so I'm feeling less than confident with that approach because we tried it last year and there was nothing across the board that was changed. And a lot of parents are very upset, quite frankly, this year because they're finding their students in some overcrowded classrooms. You don't actually need these formulas to start the budget process. Is there a law that requires the board to vote on the staffing formulas?
No, I mean, there's some schools, the smaller schools particularly, the superintendent determines what they are, much in the same way we're doing. You write them down here, and that's what they staff to.
Yeah.
But the larger schools, certainly after you get maybe 15, 20,000 students, you've got to be more systemic in how you do this.
You want to have those formulas, but you don't need the board necessarily to approve those. You could start with those yourself in the process. So what I'd like to do is make a motion to postpone this item, 8.05, to the next board meeting to give the administration some time to think through what you've heard from trustees. It sounds like a lot of them agree with the spirit of the amendment. In fact, a lot of them have even further ideas. And then at that time, come back to the board with what you think would best meet the needs based on the input that you heard today, based on other input that you'll gather between now and the next meeting. So I'm making a motion.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Trustees, any discussion on the new motion? Trustee Mitchke.
Well, if this motion fails, I will be making the motion to postpone indefinitely. And I don't think that bringing it back, requiring that they bring it back next month without having had a comprehensive review of all of the items is really appropriate. I'm a little bit troubled by the last minute nature of the motion, that it's didn't give the administration any chance to review the proposals. It was under-inclusive in that it didn't cover other positions, and I'm just uncomfortable with the process. I'd like the administration to review it, but I would be uncomfortable in supporting the current motion that's on the table.
Trustee Henry?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have already mentioned some of what I would call concerns, but I just want to echo Trustee Mitchke's position and just the uncomfortable nature of how this has come about, in addition to the administration not having the ability or it being their intent to bring this before the board for us to understand. I'm the newest member on the board, and the idea of getting an email at 8:32, and I'm just going to be frank with you, having to process no information other than this sheet of paper, costs, benefits, where's the money coming from, when we just went before voters and asked them to trust us with their money. So I feel personally this weight of accountability. What are we going to do with this money? And I know it's separate from the current funds we're going to get from the TRE, but it's still monies that we're held accountable for as trustees. So this idea of this, coming across the email at 8:32 a.m., we had a briefing and little to no discussion except what's happening at this board right now, and then being asked to make a decision just is not the way this should work as far as governance and administration. So I think everyone agrees that counselors are important. So are teachers, so are librarians, so are custodians, so are community liaisons, which we lack a lot of in South Dallas in particular. So I think we share this concern, but this just isn't the right process in my opinion. So I share Trustee Mitchke's concern, and to quote some other folks on the board, I just don't have enough information to feel comfortable at all voting for the amendments that's before us. And just simple stuff. There's a mark out that says high school schools on the last one, but the email that I have says middle school. So are we going to do another amendment in that regard to actually make it high schools instead of middle schools, which is what was emailed to us? It's just, is not transparent for the board, for me. Let me speak for myself. So I need more information, and I'll leave it at that.
Trustee Solis?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to support Trustee Mitch K's amendment, but I do want to get a sense from the staff. I mean, when you go to runs, it's clear that the board wants to do something related to the ratio on counselors, you know, and then just for myself, I would love to see what we can do for librarians as well. I recognize the limitations that you've got from a budget standpoint, but at the very least, it'd be interesting to see what these numbers would look like. What all does that take? I mean, we talk about immediately putting this on the agenda for, you know, the next board meeting. I mean, we've got Thanksgiving coming up. I would hope you'll get time to spend with your families. We've got, you know, and then other breaks coming up. I'm sure you're gonna have to try to figure out how to get work done before your breaks and before your semester ends. What all would it take to try to run these different scenarios? And then what work are you working on already that you'd have to put aside related to the end of the first semester in order to do the rest of this work?
We would have to stop at Starbucks tonight because we have to put the agenda out tomorrow for next week's, for the briefing, which would be for the December briefing. So we would all be stopping at Starbucks tonight to go back to the office to start crunching the numbers. Let me also remind the board that in 2008, when I had to lay off 1,000 teachers in October, it's because we had no staffing guidelines. We overhired people. No money was missing, no money was stolen. So I went to Austin and hired Larry Throm. He says, I'll take this job on one condition, is you let me have HR and we put in staffing formulas. If you don't do that, I'm not coming. So I hired Larry, he got us out of the ditch. We have staffing formulas. We come back 2.0. We're not happy with our finances. So I go hire Larry. Larry said, I'll take the job under one condition. If we have staffing ratios and we have discipline and we stick to them, because all of your money is in people. And this is the best CFO in the country. When you see the report of where our financial standing is going to be next month, it's because he has discipline and he follows the staffing recommendations. All of our money's in people this year, every year, and next year. And we've made this promise to this community that we're going to be good stewards of their dollars. And now here, the very first meeting after the TRE, all of the board is asking us for more positions for next year. All of the board, all of you are asking for new positions. And where is this money going to come from unless we start raiding the money that we just got from the taxpayers to fund our strategic initiatives? If you think the legislature is going to give us a boatload of money, I don't know where that's going to come from. So to honor that request, we're all going back to 9400, getting some coffee out and start doing some formulas because Dan wants all these other things. Audrey wants this, you want that. So that's the practical matter. That agenda needs to be posted tomorrow for the Friday after, the Thursday after Thanksgiving. As a practical matter, that's what next month means. But I think maybe if I wasn't clear enough, I'll try another shot at it.
That was very clear. This is very clear.
Second.
Yeah. I think
that wasn't a motion?
I think I'm going to support Trustee Mitch K's amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I haven't had a whack at this, so Larry, I remember being at 3700 Ross. You know, this is one of my, I remember back when moments. And we've looked at staffing formulas for years. And in the immortal words of Larry Throm, the answer that I recall the most is, I'll be glad to do that. What do you want me to cut? I'll be glad to do that. What do you want me to cut? And if you start, and I also recall how during the 2008 era, the first thing that we heard from every board member was, don't touch the teachers. Don't touch the teacher. If you're going to cut anywhere, don't cut the teachers. And that year, it just was not possible because that's what we had overstaffed. But if, we start adding constraints and start telling you, well, you can't cut the teachers, but we want you to add all this other stuff. Well, then what are you gonna cut? Well, you know, we're not gonna cut librarians, then what are we gonna cut? Well, we're not gonna cut custodians. Well, we're not gonna cut, you know, because they're essential. We're not gonna cut cafeteria workers, because how are the kids gonna eat? I mean, it is a circular argument. That's the point. The point is we can sit here till we're blue in the face and go over and over and over about what we're gonna add, what we're gonna add, what we're gonna cut. In this case, we have absolutely no idea what this costs. I mean, frankly, I mean, that's kind of the height of fiscal irresponsibility. I also want to, so that's one point. Second point is, you know, Pam, I think we're going to have to take this unity section and just kind of rip it up and go back to like maybe like 3 points approaching focus, because there's absolutely no unity on, you know, waiting till the last minute when nobody's discussed anything with anybody and say, well, why don't we do this? Actually, Trustee Marshall, it wasn't a month ago that we passed that resolution. It was 2 weeks ago, practically. How quickly we forget. I will not be supporting any of this stuff. I'm supporting the original staffing formulas of the administration, and I'm ready to vote on those, and I am ready to move forward. Trustee Blackman.
Let me go back and just kind of go back in time also.
We're doing the reminiscing bit?
Yeah, I'm reminiscing because generally, when we get the staffing allocation, when we have had them, there has been very little discussion about the staffing allocation on the day that we receive it and actually talk about it. It generally comes afterwards. And almost every year there's talk about adding more for counselors, adding more for librarians. We hear this every year, so it's not like this is the first time we're hearing this. And also, when some of my colleagues say that this seems to be coming kind of at the last minute, just know that in our policy, there's a timeline for bringing an amendment. And evidently, this amendment was brought within the timeline that's in our policy. And in our policy, it says that if you have an amendment brought to the board in a timely fashion, then if someone wants to make an amendment to that amendment, then you can bring those amendments to the board table. So to say that this is coming up all of a sudden is basically saying that our policy is out of line. And we have been following this policy for a few years now. So I think we should not talk about how untimely this is when it is following our policy. And I think that even though Stephanie and you and someone else may have had at least a little bit of conversation with Trustee Pinkerton, I think in some kind of way you guys may have had some idea, a ballpark figure about how much this might cost. And I think you've already told us it might cost around $4 or $5 million. And that's a ballpark figure. I understand you don't have exact costs, but you have an idea about how much it will cost, right? You have your light on.
I calculated it right now. I turned my light on because you referenced my conversation with Trustee Pinkerton, so perhaps I wasn't as clear. We never had a conversation about where we would be adding them. I asked Trustee Pinkerton to allow me to bring this back later. We have a middle school initiative where, in fact, I'm taking to Dr. Hinojosa for consideration some things he's asked us to do. And she asked me if I could support this. And I said I could not at this time. So I just wanted to be very clear with regard to that conversation. So the amendment that came through with the amount that I calculated was, I'm just taking the numbers off the top of my head and coming up with a round figure, but that 4.5 to 5 million only was roughly the counselors, one being added at each of the high schools and middle schools, but I didn't include benefits, I didn't include the monitors, et cetera. So I can give ballpark figures, but when we do a budget with regard to staffing, we always staff based on we're not going to get any new money. So, and knowing that we have declined in enrollment, albeit less this past year, I also have to keep into the forefront, we still lost 1,500 students this year, even though we lost less, which means, you know better than I do, Trustee Blackburn, that means we're going to have less revenue because we have less kids. So I am trying to ask myself, how can I bring something forward right now? Do I want to look at it? The word need, that our campuses need these things. I also want to do what everyone here does, as our superintendent asked us to. We always want to fill the need. We're always wanting to fill the need. There's still only limited dollars. So I don't think we're on opposite, we're trying to do opposite things. I just don't have the luxury of just saying, if you want it, then let me give it to you because it's a need. I can sit here and say, I know we're not fulfilling, I am not fulfilling all of their needs. And I'm going to go back and look and see how we can do a better job, and I'll bring it to Dr. Hinojosa. But I did not get the number of individuals that were going to be added until I saw the email late yesterday. So again, I did state that we were not comfortable supporting additional staff members at this time, but that I would be bringing something to Dr. Hinojosa so that we could then possibly look at some other areas that we could make some changes on.
Yeah, my only reason for mentioning that, because I think Trustee Pinkerton said she did speak with you. My intent was just that during that conversation, at least in passing thought, you might have given some idea about how much it might cost. That was my only reason for bringing that up. But when we talk about no new money, I'm hearing from you guys that there's no new money. I'm hearing from you guys there's no extra money. What happened to the $126 million annually?
It's been assigned.
1 year. 1 year.
You signed it.
You said annually, though. So what about next year's $126 million? We read the amendment. It was only for this year. The extra $126 million for this year. It's in the resolution. Next year's money. We're talking about next year's budget. That's another $126 million. You guys saying we have no new money.
We're going to spend $30 million of that on the strategic initiatives. And a lot of those strategic initiatives are recurring costs. We got to pay for that year and then the following year. So we then got to draw down some more from the savings account. And we can do that for 3 or 4 years, or maybe 5. But there is no new money. And we're going to have less students. So there is no new money that is unassigned.
If you'll allow me to kind of piggyback on that, I mean, I'm not going to come up here every time and say there's no new money, but there is no new money. You ask for a detailed thing, the net between revenue and expenditure for 5 years, because you could see after the 3rd year, year after next, that there is less revenue coming in than there's expenditures. And our response is, well, that we're going to take it out of fund balance, take it out of that 126, take it out of that 126 million in year 3, 4, and 5. Well, it looks like we're going to take it out at the year 1, 2, 3 now, because we're going to spend that first. We've lost students every year. This year, next week, 2 weeks from now, at the briefing, there's a budget amendment coming. It's decreasing this current year's revenues by $10 million. We've got 1,500 kids less, and that doesn't sound like many. It's only approximately 6 children per campus. 6 times 250 gets you 1,500. Now, when you lose 6 children per campus, that might be at the high school, 1.5 per grade at the elementary, K through 5, it's just one student per grade. We're pulling out $10 million of revenue, and there's no way we can cut expenditures at the campus. They just lost one kid per grade. So it's a terrible spiral when you're losing students, because you lose the revenue and you can't cut and reduce your expenditures out there. Because a normal person would say, well, 1,500 divided by 25 kids to teacher, and divide that out, and whatever that is, 40, 50, 60 kids, 60 teachers we could reduce. No, because you just lost one at each grade. That's how it really works out there. And so to sit here and think that we can add on reoccurring costs, it's almost like I could probably, if you wanted to buy some more buses in addition to one, that's a one-time expenditure. But you want to add on additional expenditures, and they're going to be continuing. You know, just keep adding, and you're going to get the same result that you've had in the past. That does not have a good ending. And we're trying to show the future with our 4- and 5-year forecast, depending what time of the year we do that. And now we're doing 4, and we've got an updated 4-year forecast. And it is what it is, but
Thank you. Trustee Marshall?
Mr. President, I'd like to call the question on Trustee Pinkerton's amendment.
Okay, we have a motion to call the question. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? The current amendment is to postpone indefinitely. Right.
Point of order, the current motion on the floor is my motion to postpone until next month, till the next meeting.
Right, so that's the current motion. Unless there's any other discussion, I think we're ready to vote on that motion. Okay, so we're voting on the motion to postpone till next month. Trustees, please cast your vote.
The motion fails, 3 voting yes, 6 voting no.
Okay, trustees, we're now back to the Pinkerton amendment.
Call the question.
Oh, now we're calling the question. To call the question, no, the call of the question on the Pinkerton amendment.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules to postpone indefinitely a vote on Trustee Pinkerton's motion.
Second.
Point of
Okay,
order.
we have a motion, a second.
Point of order. Just because all this needs to be done the right way so that Trustee Pinkerton's rights are, we respect her rights. She called the question, and in calling the question, that means that if somebody objects to her calling the question, then we need to take a vote on that. It's a majority vote, one way or the other. However that plays out, plays out. And then, if she doesn't win her call of calling the question, then Trustee Mischke has the opportunity to propose his amendment, like the way that he just did.
I thought the call of the question required a supermajority.
It does.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're voting on Trustee Pinkerton's call of the question.
So it's not the amendment itself.
Right,
It's just
right.
calling the question.
She moved to call the question, so if you vote yes, then her amendment and everything passes. And if you vote no, then her call of the question fails, and we go back to the Pinkerton amendment. Okay? Please cast your vote.
The call to question was Trustee Pinkerton's motion, and who seconded?
Oh, nobody seconded.
Nobody has a second. It's a calling the question. It's a parliamentary rule.
If she needs a second, I'll do it.
She doesn't need a second.
Okay.
So we'll just,
I don't think anyone has objected to my second, to my
I have objected.
calling of the question,
I've objected.
because we want to do it the right way.
Yes.
So there's a second from Trustee Foreman, and there's an objection from Trustee Solis on the record. Okay, so trustees, we're voting on the Pinkerton call of the question.
Trustee Foreman? You want to vote? I finally got it.
There it is. The motion fails, 3 voting yes, 6 voting no.
Trustee Mitchell?
Okay, again, I am going to move to suspend the rules to postpone the Pinkerton amendment indefinitely and to allow a vote on the main motion.
Second.
Okay, we have on the motion second. Any discussion? If not, please cast your votes as soon as we're ready.
The motion passes, 6 voting yes, 3 voting no.
Okay, trustees, we are now back to the main motion. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to cast our votes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Please cast your votes. We're making sure AJ returns.
Trustee Foreman? Okay. The motion passes, 8 voting yes, 1 voting no.
Okay, trustee, I believe that concludes our agenda. It is 9:13 Apple Standard Time, and this meeting is adjourned.